What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, inspiring all of us to feel better, look better, love better, make better last-second shots, advance to the Sweet 16 better, enjoy March Madness at a higher level every damn day of our lives. And our Monday night show, brought to you by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. Visit gomuskox.com for their latest, for their spring collection as well. And you can always use the Couch and the Rube promo code CAW15. That's CAW 15 for $15 off. Jason, how you doing, man?
Cockburn.
What's up, buddy? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Did you you didn't happen to see Kenny Smith saying Cockburn, right?
I did. I saw
you
you
end up seeing
tweet that out. Yes, that was fantastic.
How great was that? Thanks, Kenny Smith, for saying it how it's supposed to be said. Cockburn. And then you could see in the middle of it, he's like, Coburn? Should I say Coburn?
Well,
Cockburn?
Phonetically,
Cockburn.
it's what it looks like.
Kofi? Just say Kofi.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So,
a lot of questions, a lot of hot takes today, huh?
This is gonna be a whale of a show.
Couch sends me the hot takes, and at the top it says, "Buckle up, donuts." That's like, God, I hate that.
Sorry,
it's gonna be a long night, but it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be good. There are a lot of
good takes. Yeah.
Yes, and there are a lot of really good takes. I'm actually some that make you think. Some I'll steal for columns, all that sort of stuff. So there's some really good hot takes from our listeners.
Coach my team.
Do you want to go first, my friend?
Of course. I have to say, this has to go down as one of the weirdest Michigan State basketball teams I've ever seen. Graham, they shot well from three-point during the regular season, right? Last two games in the NCAA tournament. Last game, they were 2 for 16. Like, I just don't know what this team – can this team win the national title? Fuck, I don't know. Will they go out against Kansas State and lose by 20? Maybe. This is the most upside-down, backward Michigan State team, Graham, I've ever seen. And do we owe Tom Izzo an apology? I guess. Right? I guess it's working out, but throughout the season, I mean, I think it's okay to give him shit. I'm sure throughout the hot takes, people are apologizing to Coach Izzo. That's fine. But it's something like a 20-hour car ride, and you're sitting there with your family and your relatives. You're going to end up getting into a fight, but at the end of it, you love each other. And we're all going to love Izzo. But come on, can we talk about how this team shot poorly from three in 2 NCAA games? You would have thought, if I would have told you that, you'd be like, there's no way they make it to a second round.
You're right. I didn't think they would shooting like that, given how, especially what we saw them morph into late in the year when they played well. They were shooting 49 of 85 in their final 4 games from beyond the three-point arc. And that's how they sort of reached another gear, right?
And then 7 for 30 in the NCAA games.
Right.
Bizarre.
But what's happened is, and it's all come together at the right time, and we've seen Izzo teams do this before, and you have to have the guards to do it. You got to have the sweat equity, as I always say, and other things happen.
Tyson Walker helps having him.
You got to have an elite backcourt, and they really do right now. I mean, the plays that they made at the end of that game, and the poise that they showed, and they are a product of their season, and everybody is. Like, University of Michigan's basketball team is a product of its season. They couldn't finish close games. They screwed up late, and eventually that sunk them. That just became their DNA. It became who you are, and sometimes that's what happens. Other teams grow from it. Other teams learn from it. And when you have veteran guards and you have guys that are motivated by something like what happened to them against Duke last year, wanting that opportunity again, and A.J. Hoggard talked about that Sunday night in the locker room. Like, this is something we've been thinking about, that opportunity. Again, these guys have been motivated all year by it. And so when you have you have a Joey Hauser who came back for this opportunity, playing against his old team. But what impressed me, though, is they were forced in both of these games to win a little bit of a different way. And there is a maturity about that, and there is a flexibility to them, a versatility to them that is really important, because at some point you got to think this team's still going to have a game where they shoot 10 for 22 from three. And if that game happens against Kansas State, guess what? They're going to win that game. Or they might lose it, right? I mean, that's why this team is so weird. They could make 10 3-pointers next game against Kansas State and lose. If they defend like they're defending, I don't think they will. Because I don't hate the matchup against Kansas State either. Here's the thing, and I'll tailor this into one of my takes here. MSU is still alive because it is built like the majority of the teams that are winning in the NCAA tournament, with guards and athletic wings and defense, right? And look what happened to Purdue. Look what happened to the bigs. Look what happened. Hunter Dickinson's not in this field. You have to have, if you're going to play through a big, you also still have to have elite guards. And you still have to have seasoned guards. That's what matters so much more. It's not that, look, UConn is a tremendous team. They may win the whole thing. They're my pick to win the team. They're my only Final Four team left. And they would be a problem for Michigan State. But they are more than their big man. And I think there are too many, like Purdue, that was their problem. Michigan State has run into teams now that fit who they are in matchups. There's nobody who's going to hurt them on the low block. They're not facing teams that are going to pound you on the glass. Kansas State is not that team either. They've got an incredible point guard, an incredible wing, and they've got good athletes. They play more one-on-one style ball than Marquette, certainly, which was a lot of, which would like to play a lot of ball screen stuff. And I think that plays into what Michigan State wants to do and what Izzo will do with his team gap defense, right? It's not a great – Michigan State's not a great team to have to face with one-on-one ball. That said, they've got a couple players who, we talk about Michigan State's backcourt proving against Marquette that it's elite, because Marquette was supposed to have an elite backcourt, and Michigan State was better. They were better than USC's best players. I think it gets even elevated against Kansas State. But they're intriguing as hell. And the difference between this Michigan State team and the last time they made a run as a 7 seed is this team is not doing it just by being hot. That team got hot. Travis Trice was on fire. He became a different player. That team played above its level, and they had some good parts. And Denzel Valentine the next year, kept on taking steps. And Brandon Dawson was an incredible athlete. But this team is not playing above itself. It's just sort of all come together at once. And I think that gives it a better chance to be sustainable, and it also helps that there's no team in college basketball right now that's brutal. But I think if you're talking about roster construction, we talked all year about whether this team had it and had the right goods and whether they should have brought in another 5, and that's still absolutely debatable. It's still Mady Sissoko played really well the other day, but it's still fair to say, and
it's okay to say.
Yeah.
It's all right. We can talk about the season.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you want to. Yeah, the Fire Izzo people, don't talk about them. They don't mean anything right now. But I feel like, like we always say, if you're a rational fan, I feel like you can critique what happened throughout this basketball season. But now, just enjoy it.
Question for you. If you are Tom Izzo and you lose at Purdue next year to Zach Edey, who comes back, say, do you get in the post-game press conference and just say, fuck it, this didn't matter? Like, what do I care? These guys are going to win
somebody, please guard somebody.
These guys are going to win the Big Ten and lose in the first or second round of the NCAA tournament playing through a center. We're going to do fine in the tournament, but we're not going to be able to beat them in Big Ten play. I don't give a shit. Like, do you just say that at some point? Because the big man ball that has been the top of the Big Ten for a few years now, often. And I'm not saying it. Look, we've seen Michigan get to an Elite 8 with a big man. It's not that it can't be done. But it's so much about the guard play. And if you have questions about your guard play, it does not matter if you have a great big man. And sometimes it doesn't matter anyway if you don't have the coach who understands how to play in March. Like Brad Underwood in Illinois with Ayo Dosunmu, right?
We had him on Aho a lot.
I mean, that was a really screwed up coaching job, and they had the guard. They had the backcourt to do it, but they didn't even know how to do it. If you don't have a big man who can dominate them, you have to convince that big man to be a rim runner and rebounder and not play through them if it's not working, and you've got to be able to adjust to that. And a lot of coaches, it seems, can't do it. Here's a stat. Greg Waddell from the Field of 68. Good stat he tweeted out. In 14 combined college seasons for Luka Garza, Kofi,
Cockburn.
Zach Edey, and Trace Jackson Davis, they combined 7 times being a 4-seed or higher in the NCAA tournament, 5 first-team All-American honors, 4 Big Ten regular season and tournament championships, 2 National Players of the Year, and in those 14 seasons and those 4 players and those 5 All-American years, 1 Sweet 16 appearance. That's a remarkable stat. And that's not to say you shouldn't recruit big men, but it does make you wonder about the emphasis on it and the type of big men. The NBA has gone away from it entirely. Are we if your child turns out to be a 7-footer in 20 years, are you going to turn them into a bowler and say basketball is not for you? There is no place. I don't know.
Volleyball.
Yeah, there we go. We'll bring men's volleyball, make it a bigger thing. Because this shit ain't working apparently. What is your second hot take?
I know that we say this a lot. I know I say college refs are ass, but please, for the love of God, watching all of these games, I swear, Graham, 10 times I've watched the commentators doing the game, watching the replay of the foul call going, I don't really see that there. Gene Steratore, and then Gene has to come on and, the refs, it's a bang-bang play, and blah, blah, but I don't see it. We have to fix the refereeing. It's absolutely fucking brutal. I know we have to fix it in all of sports, but college basketball, there has to be at least a discussion in the offseason about the referees. We have to.
So what has bothered you most? Like, where is it? What?
Not calling the game consistent. Ticky-tack fouls, or you let them play. Let them play in the first half. Great game. You don't call stuff. I mean, guys are diving for the ball. No calls. In the second half, now you're calling ticky-tack shit, and teams are in the bonus with 12 minutes to go. Nobody wants to see that. A free throw contest? We have to talk about the expanding the total fouls, expanding this up to 6 fouls. And I know we say it in jest because we know it'll never be talked about, but what do we have to do in the offseason? Can we have a conversation about it? That's all I'm asking. Can we is the NCAA happy with the way that it's being called? The way that the refs are doing it? That's honestly, Graham, and I know it's a tough job. I couldn't do it. You get yelled at if you do something right. You get yelled at if you do something wrong. But it's just, please, just call it consistent. Let the guys know so they can figure out how to play in the second half.
Yeah, the consistency is a major problem, and it has been for a long time. And the makeup calls, you'll see one team get 5 straight fouls, and you know it's coming back the other way. And that shit's got to stop. And there just doesn't seem to be much accountability. And maybe it's because, and I know these guys get graded, and the top guys get to do bigger games and all that stuff and get to be in bigger leagues, and it is a hard job. But it just seems like we could get to a point where we agree to what great basketball look like and what we want it to look like and what a foul is and isn't. And we seem to be really struggling with that.
But expanding the rules is more important, obviously, I think. Because that way, if the refs want to call it a different style, at least there's actually more fouls. Wait to get into the bonus, so it's not with 12 minutes to go in the game. We just shoot free throws all through the rest of the game. It's brutal.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. All right, my second hot take. It is amazing how one game, one weekend really, but one well-timed, impressive win on a fairly big stage can change so much about the perception of a team and a program and an old coach that he's still a guy you probably want to bet on in certain situations against a lot of other coaches in a one-day prep or a quick 2-day turnaround, whatever you want to call it. And first of all, that game felt, I think, for MSU fans, and this is just sort of reading the reactions to things that I've tweeted and written and emails and interactions I've had, that game felt so much bigger than a second-round game. Because I think people really needed that. They needed that. First of all, when you get to the second weekend, when you get to the Sweet 16, you get 4 or 5 days to relish in it. It's not like, you win the first round game, it's a real quick turnaround, and if you don't win that, it's all over. You go to a different location. There's a lot of buildup. It feels like you've done something. Your program is on a bigger stage, and in Michigan State's case, it's the only Big Ten team left. I think that feels good for people because they weren't feeling like the elite Big Ten team for a while. And this is another example of, in March, Michigan State often has been that. But it is remarkable how, and it'll be interesting to see if they lose this game to Kansas State, who's really, really good and could absolutely beat them. How much people's moods will change. Because I do think, we had said before, and we talked about this, what it would take for people to feel good about this season going into the next season. We've said Sweet 16, second weekend. They have done that now. They've had a win that people are going to, I think, will last and people feel good about. People are going to feel good about that backcourt, the accomplishment, what they saw, and they know they have a good team coming back and a lot of good players coming in. I think people will be able to deal with and digest whatever comes in this next round. Like the 2019 team, though, the 2019 team that lost in the Final Four, the disappointment in that is I think people felt like there was a genuine opportunity to win a national title. I think people look at the situation now and go, there's a genuine opportunity to get to a Final Four based on the other teams in the region. So there will be some disappointment there. But I think the mood will have changed for the entire offseason and sort of the excitement and buzz and hope for basketball next year and sort of the rekindling of an energy around the program from the fan base will exist because of that win, that one win against a really good 2-seed that had won 10 straight games and won the Big East. I mean, that was no small feat. And Michigan State looked like the better team. They looked like the more prepared team. They looked like a team that was determined, and certainly I followed the scouting report really well. But I think that game just did a lot. I don't know what you think on that, but it
Did Izzo outcoach Shaka Smart by a lot? Because I thought he did.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Shaka Smart talked about it afterwards. They were one of the best 2-point shooting teams in the country. And what Izzo basically said is, we're going to give you some threes. They shot 27 threes. They made 11 of them. But they were 9 for 25 or something inside the arc. They took away the what they want to do, getting to the rim, living off ball screens from all sorts of angles, they couldn't do. And a lot of that has to do with Michigan State's guards bothering them defensively. Mady Sissoko and Carson Cooper having good games. I thought Malik Hall played not offensively, but in certain ways, his best, most important game. That rebound was obviously big late. And then when you've got guards who can make shots, now they're going to run into that in Kansas State, a point guard who can make pro-type shots. But Michigan State's got guys at the end of the game. You go back to the Gonzaga game, right? Beginning of the year, they go to Jaden Akins. He misses that too. Michigan State right now, I mean, they've evolved. They've been through so many situations. This is why you play this schedule. You figure out what works. You're in a million situations. You win the Kentucky game at the end with great plays. Like, these guys understand how to – they've lost games at the end. They've won games at the end. And they look like a team that knows what they want to do. They know Tyson Walker and A.J. Hoggard are their best two options there. Joey Hauser in the huddle with 1:28 to go was saying, let's put the ball in Tyson Walker's hand and do this to create space for them. He was calling the play. And then with 36 seconds to go and they're up 8, a team that's blown a late lead to Iowa, all the guys in the huddle are saying, this is what we don't want to give up. This is what we can give up. Like, these guys are a product of their season. And I just, it's all come together at the right time.
So should we, hold off next season, 2 months in, not to critique too hard?
Well,
we'll wait till March.
I do think that's the thing in college basketball is you sometimes have to remind yourself it is a sport that gives you a lot of chances to find yourself and to have a good year.
such a long season.
Yeah, and you can develop into something else. Now, if you're a veteran team, and you don't want to peak too early, Michigan State's had teams that have been great that have sort of been their best early. The Denzel Valentine senior year team, the 2013-14, those are teams that were as good in November and December as they ever were. And now there were injuries and other circumstances, and they might have been fine anyway. But and I'm not saying getting a number one seed doesn't help you unless you're Purdue and you've got two guards who look like they belong at Hope College in your backcourt. Take that for what it is.
Harry's pretty pissed at Matt Painter, I guess, too. I haven't listened to their Against All Odds podcast, but
I would imagine we'll talk with Harry later in the week about his situation. But what is your third hot take?
Well, there was a professional gambler, Steve Fezzik, who lost over $100,000 on Purdue and admitted it because he's a guy that's won the NFL Super contests back-to-back years, which has to be fucking possible. But he bet on the money line over $100,000 to net 2009 Graham style to win 2 G's. Oh. Now, he had a terrible weekend, but I got to say, Graham, the past 3 days have to be the worst in my gambling history. But here's the thing. I only lost $100 total.
Because you were playing small amounts.
I was playing small amounts, but I was still off. I was free rolling off my Scotty Scheffler fat finger bet that I won on the players. But I got to say, I haven't hit a bet in 3 days, Graham. And you want to know what? I can't wait till Thursday. Because we got to get it back.
This is fun. Yeah.
I don't know about that. But dude, it stole my soul on, what was it, on Friday night? It stole my soul. I went to bed early. I just couldn't do it. But we'll be back Thursday.
If you have had your soul stolen by your gambling results,
1-800
or the basketball, well, there's a lot. Yeah, there are options there if it's serious. If you're betting,
they called me.
Yeah, if they're calling you, but if all you just need is some comfort in your life, Muskox has just launched a new lightweight flannel called the 3 Seasons flannel. Flannel's available in 3 new colors, perfect for spring. Made out of durable 100% cotton, weighing less than. It's a spring flannel. You will feel it. You can find these spring flannels at gomuskox.com/spring. Real easy. Regular website thing, gomuskox.com/spring. And, of course, caw 15 for $15 off. I've got one on its way. I think it brings up my eyes, and I always look good.
It's better than a bra.
It's better than a bra.
I'd see you wear that.
I'm glad to have won the bra bet for sure. There is no doubt about that. My third hot take: the Big Ten. All the criticism,
ass, huh?
Let's shove it. Okay. Because here's the thing: the Big Ten had one team that was really seeded to get to the second weekend, and that was Purdue. And that was a disaster, obviously. Michigan State made up for that, a 7 seed getting there. Indiana was a 4 that lost to a 5. That's a toss-up game. People acting like the Big Ten shouldn't have had 8 teams in. The Big Ten got as many teams as they deserved, and they were seeded where they should have been, and some of them did really well. Some of them won toss-up games, like Penn State beat Texas A&M. Northwestern won an NCAA tournament game. Maryland won a game. These are all good things. Yeah. Did Illinois shit the bed? Is Illinois a program that I've lost complete confidence in? 100%. Is Fran McCaffrey ever going to get to a Sweet 16? Nope. Not going to happen. But this was supposed to be a year where the Big Ten was going to be able to step out of the spotlight. They had a couple years where they didn't perform that well in the postseason. They weren't supposed to be that good as a league. It was going to be like, hey, let's see if it's an off-the-radar year, and maybe they'll surprise a few people, but nobody's going to expect much. Well, Purdue went and then fucked it up. And then the league went and fucked it up. So Purdue was really good when nobody expected them to be. They get to a 1 seed. The league winds up being the deepest league, not great, but good teams. In like the history of college basketball, 12, 13 deep, whatever it was at its peak when different teams were playing well. And people love to hate the Big Ten. So there's naturally, and I get it, because ultimately everybody would like to be the Big Ten. The Big Ten is likely to go take your team if they like them enough. They're taking USC and UCLA. Everybody would still love to be in the Big Ten. There is zero consequence for this, by the way. The Big Ten will get 8 in next year. and everybody would still love to join the Big Ten. It's the best league to be a part of, to cover, to be a fan of, because it's the best multi-sport league with resources and fan bases in the country. The SEC may have great basketball some years, but their fan base is still all football.
But when the 16 seed loses, when they won the Big Ten title and then their tournament,
no doubt,
lose in the first round to Fairleigh Dickinson.
Bad luck.
Yeah.
Do not go into seasons ever again with 2 freshman guards. Go get yourself, you know where Vincennes Community College is? Go get yourself a dude who can drive downhill, because what happened is those guys looked at Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer and said, wait a second. And the jersey didn't matter. The seed didn't matter. They're like, these guys can't stop us. And they got shook. They got scared. It is what it is. Don't let yourself be in that situation. Purdue, that was bad. They've had some decent runs, though. They almost got to a Final Four a few years ago. They got to a Sweet 16, was it a year ago, even though they lost to a low seed. They've had some decent runs. Do they need to reevaluate some things? Sure. But lay off the Big Ten, because this wasn't supposed to be a great year. Do I wish they'd done more? Yeah, I was hoping that the Big Ten would show up and surprise, and all this good depth that we had in this league that we all sort of love and cover and whatever would show out beyond expectations, and we'd all be able to say, well, yeah, we knew all along they were better. It turns out they weren't. Indiana does not have the complementary pieces to their 2 major guys, it turns out, and Miami exposed that. A lot of these teams were seeded in matchups that made getting beyond the first round difficult. Michigan State, on the other hand, was a team that was, I think, better than its seed, at least was capable of being better than its seed if it had had a different season with injuries and scheduling and different things like that. It might have been a team that was 14-6 in the Big Ten and was a 3 or 4 seed, and we would have seen it a little bit earlier. Like who this Michigan State team is right now is better than a 7 seed. That's very clear. This is better than the 2015 team that went to the Final Four. This is better than last year's 7 seed. There's no question about that. But lay off the Big Ten, because it's just petty jealousy, and it wasn't a great showing. But it's not like the Big Ten is all one monolithic thing. It's not like the gumpy white dudes at the AAU tournament look over in one corner and say, hey, there's my coaches, the Big Ten coaches. And the athletic dudes in the other like, hey, there's the Big 12 and SEC. You know, that's not how it works. What happens at Iowa has nothing to do with Michigan State. What happens at Wisconsin has nothing to do with what happens at Maryland. And Mississippi State gets 0 credit for Kentucky. You know, these leagues are now, I'm not saying there aren't some programs that are in better places, but the leagues don't have all that much. Each team doesn't have all that much to do with each other in the league. Now, you may, the other thing is, if you're a Big Ten team now, you certainly don't want to build around the big dudes anymore without guards. Guards have to be your priority. So maybe there's been a little of that as a mistake, but just the Big Ten was not expected to do more than it's done. Purdue fucked up. That's it. And that was a big screw up. One of the biggest upsets in college basketball history. No doubt.
I mean, Michigan was what? Second, like 3 weeks before the Big Ten tournament or something like that. I mean, the Big Ten, it's just they beat up on each other. It's year after year. They just beat each other's ass and then get in the tournament and then like 5 teams underachieve. And that's why people think the Big Ten is ass. Because if you don't watch the Big Ten and you look at all the box scores and the records and the road records and all, you're like, Jesus, what's going on here?
I get
why people would say the Big Ten's ass.
And Purdue's
sometimes it is.
And Purdue's an easy punching bag right now. And there have been some teams that are frustrating. Illinois was a maddening team to watch this year. Indiana, just at the end, it was like, gosh, I thought they had more to them. And, you know, Purdue, it's like we saw them get shook against Illinois late in the regular season. Thought they sort of recovered in the Big Ten tournament. And then those guards got shook again. And there's a lesson in that. You don't get guards who are going to get shook as freshmen. But Purdue thought they were a 6th place team. They overachieved this year. And so expectations came with that. Nobody thought this was going to happen. So anyway, that's my rant on the Big Ten. It's driven me batshit just a little bit to hear all the anti-Big Ten sentiment.
I'm sure there's no hot takes saying the Big Ten is ass.
No, everybody thinks it's amazing.
Oh,
so
okay,
we're all on we're all on board there. So, all right, do you want to dig into some of these listener hot takes?
Of course. Eric Schultz up first. Number one, for the first time in 3 years, MSU looked like MSU again. They were the grittier, tougher, and more defensively sound team for both games. 2, playing Shaka Smart than a first-year head coach, and then probably Rick Barnes for a shot at the Final Four is beyond ideal. 3, Hauser's improvement this year has been extraordinary. Even when the threes aren't falling, the kid finds a way to be extremely valuable. No chance that would have been the case in previous years.
So to his first point, one of the things that was interesting about Michigan State is they, against Duke, they were ahead for a while. They were playing with them, but it felt like they were doing something. They were punching above their weight a little bit. Michigan State looked like and felt like the better team, and they felt like a front runner, a team that's an elite seed. And so to Eric's point, 100%. Like this, and this was the first game, the first weekend where it felt like that in a while. And I think that's a real
during the
promising
Big
sign.
Ten season, like at the end of the Big Ten season, though, when they played well, it is fun to watch them when they play well.
There are moments with these, yeah,
right,
yeah.
Just put it together for one game, and it seems like they're doing that in the NCAA tournament.
And they just have, it's the old adage, you got to have 3 guys rolling. And I've talked about that before. And they have enough guys that they're likely to have 3 going. Like they can survive Jaden Akins having an off shooting day because of the other guys they have. Like there are teams out there that cannot survive that.
Dominic next. Number 1, no shit sandwich tastes better than an Izzo Sunday night special. What a fucking king. 2, Solari unsuccessfully attempts to videotape 17 different tunnel-style assaults at Central because he has cream cheese smeared on his touchscreen. 3, MSU to the Final Four, but Graham won't know it. He misses the game, and his 3 quick takes cause him and Quinn to lose track of time at Capone Speakeasy on 5th Avenue. Hans Jurgen catches them, making a West Side Story TikTok, and it goes viral. And yes, they're both wearing fedoras. Do you own a fedora?
I do not own a fedora.
Oh, fuck. You need to get one.
Yeah.
And bonus, Joey deserves all the fucking spoils for the player he's become. A lot of fake wannabe geniuses, like me, wanted him run off campus. Phenomenal turnaround.
It is one of the better stories, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, it is. And there have been other guys who have done it. We talked about Kenny Goins. Sissoko is a guy who I think has a chance to become beloved. And it's not about becoming a great player. It's about changing your story arc. And it's about making plays at key times. It started for Joey with 29 points in an NCAA tournament game against Davidson, right? And that was really important. That meant a lot to people. He showed up in a big moment, and then he's done it all year. And Sissoko, those 2 blocks, and a guy who does get lost but plays through it. I
just think the criticism, at least for Hauser and I think Sissoko too, is like we see that they could be better. Like Hauser with the COVID stuff, and he was just really beat up by that stuff. And just to watch him do this now.
Can you hear my wife?
What's that?
Can you hear my wife?
I can.
We're doing the podcast. Yeah.
What is that?
All right, I love you. I'll call you later. Right now, we're on. We're on.
Does she know that she's on air at all? Or?
No, well, now she does. She's not happy.
Jesus Christ, Graham, that's all I heard. I forgot what I was saying anyway.
Sorry, yeah. No, yeah, we talked. Yeah, no, but when you do something that...
Anyway, I just think that people, like, they could see Joey Hauser, the player that he's playing, like, I don't fucking know what I was saying anyway.
Hold on, let me text I love you to my wife. Sorry. All right, we're good.
Okay. Sweet 16. Number 1, Izzo is the best coach of all time. That's it. That's the take. All right. Tyler,
yeah,
number 1.
Well, hold on. I'll say this.
Yeah.
Among Big Ten coaches, at this point, he's up there, right? I mean, you have to say
better than
not
Painter.
just wins, but, yeah, I mean, and Bobby Knight, the way he at the end of his career. Now, Bobby Knight won 3 national championships, and Izzo has won 1. But Bobby Knight came with, I don't know, there's a level of
chair throwing.
Yeah, being a bully to everybody.
Choking Neil Reed.
Yeah, there's a trade-off. I don't know, is it worth 2 national championships? I don't know.
So.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Probably.
I think a lot of people would say yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler next. Number 1, This episode is going to be an absolute fucking banger. Well, it just was. 2, MSU went on a 13-5 run in the final 3:30 against a team that averages 80 points per game. Why did you answer the call, by the way? Did you just like?
I thought it would be. I thought it would go better.
Okay, 3. It is hard to beat MSU's experience in a toss-up type game. Kansas State will be another toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, that is. I mean, I do think that's one of the things that you bet on Izzo in games where he's got an equal shot and it's paid off. It usually comes through. It has traditionally. The games they lose tend to be games where they're overwhelmed or they're up against something they are probably not going to beat most often. And I think that people have a little bit of confidence in that again too because of what just happened against Marquette. It felt like, boy, MSU was more prepared, was better, toss-up game, better team, and people feel good about that.
Professor, number 1, I don't know how to feel with the Lions suddenly being competent in the front office. Did hell freeze over? Bonus, Mady Sissoko will have a Joey Hauser-like renaissance next year. Hope so.
I mean, that would be...
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to look like Hauser's because he's never going to be that scorer.
That would be wild.
The question is, will he ever get... one of the things Doug Wojcik talked with me the other day about their frustrations with him sometimes is he doesn't have his natural feel as a shot blocker. He had 2 huge blocks late in that game. But, Jaren Jackson just had a natural knack for it, right? It's
tough to teach.
Yeah, and whether he ever gets that, because if he does, he's an athletic dude who can, he continues to get stronger and a better feel for the game. The other challenge for him is going to be, as the other big men in the program get better, competing for minutes. Now, right now, he's still the guy, but you can see when you watch a guy like Carson Cooper, how a summer of development and weight gain, and all of a sudden you see the skills and the size. You can see offensively the things that Jackson Kohler does. And if he gets to a point where defensively he's solid and they can count on him, you can see it's like, boy, it's hard to keep some of those skills off the court. And then, you get Xavier Booker coming into the program. So for Sissoko, he's going to have to keep developing. That is for absolute sure.
Doug Warren just won. The Lions will draft a QB in the first round. I love Dougie. He posed this question on Twitter during the game. I was like, I don't know, Doug.
He's thinking
Anthony
Lions.
Richardson Lions thing right now. But back to Professor's number 1. I will say, with Brad Holmes not re-signing Jamal Williams and going to the Saints, he took less money than he was going to probably get with the Lions to go to the Saints. I just think that's a move that makes me happy because as Lions fans, we're not used to it. Because if you have a guy that runs for that many touchdowns, you definitely want to re-sign him. And I don't know, Bob Quinn probably would have signed him for a $30 million deal, but they let him go. And they got Singletary from the Bears, who's a younger guy, better contract, I think. So I'm absolutely happy with whatever Brad Holmes, whoever he wants to draft. Because people ask me, like, well, who do you want the Lions to take? Whoever Brad Holmes wants. I know it was in Bob Quinn we trust, but, when we saw him with a baseball bat in the war room, we were just like, oh, boy, what's going to happen here? But Brad Holmes has earned the right now.
When he's done so much with their defense and with their secondary already,
right.
It starts to make you wonder what they'll do in the draft. And, by the way, you can never have enough good defensive backs. If they went that way, you're fine. But, it does make you start to think, become
We're
more
just
curious.
not used to it. Lions fans aren't used to this.
And you know who else? And the reason this is actually an interesting take by Doug, too, I mean, all Doug's takes are interesting, but the better they get defensively, the more sound they get with some veterans who are good players they've added, the more pressure there is on Jared Goff. This becomes a team that ought to win the division based on the way that
that's what scares me.
A team that ought to win a playoff game. But here is the beauty of it to me, is I think it's okay. The accelerated timeline in certain ways helps because you learn everything you need. This is the Jared Goff year. He is either going to do it at a level because the rest of the team is going to get closer and closer. He's either going to do it at a level that says, okay, you're the guy, or this is his last year in the team. And so they're in a decent spot, I think, where one of the two things is going to happen. You're not going to have to, whereas if they were still further away, and you couldn't tell whether he was the issue. You know what I mean? That's I don't know.
Well, if there's a quarterback there that you like at 6, take him. I mean, if it is Richardson, I
don't take Richardson.
I'm just saying, if that's what Brad Holmes wants. Andrew Zuiza next. Number 1, this version of this team is a 24-7 team. Their season statistics are invalid at this point. They're fully healthy, which means they've got as good of a chance as anyone left in the tournament. 2, the championship odds are way off for the other side of the bracket. Too many good teams left for UCLA, UConn, Gonzaga, Houston, and Texas to have those odds. Take Bama and MSU, then hedge.
This is our Hopcat hot take of the day, presented, of course, by Hopcat. Best damn beer bar, world-famous cosmic fries, mouth-watering, award-winning burgers, including the Peyton Thorne burger, whether he's the starting quarterback or not. Each location with carefully curated craft beer lists featuring local partners, so it feels like a local pub and a great place to catch NCAA tournament games. Want to watch the Michigan State game? Can't get to New York City like most people? Want to be among friends? Hopcat. I guarantee you, whether you're in East Lansing, Grand Rapids, it can be a lot of Michigan State fans. Want to just catch the other NCAA tournament games for lunch, for dinner? Hopcat's a great place, great TV setup, great beers, terrific menu. Go to hopcat.com to find the location nearest you, and Andrew will get a $20 gift card courtesy of Hopcat for having the Hopcat hot take of the day. I want to get into what both of these are really good. I think this is important. Like, we look at this MSU team as this team that won 19 games, won 11 in the Big Ten, was up and down. But the team we've just watched, he's exactly right, is like a 24-7 team. They're a totally different team. Their statistics, their Ken Palm rating, although it's up to 25, nothing really is true anymore because they're playing at a different level. But it's not a level that's above them. It's a level that we always wondered if they could get to. Now, will they sustain it? I don't know if I trust this team entirely yet. But I think that's a good point. The other one is I think there are some gambling opportunities, and I think he's right. One side of the bracket, now I really like UConn, but one side of the bracket is much more loaded. And so there are opportunities. If you're gonna take opportunities,
please tell me. I need them. I need them all. I need every opportunity I can get.
You know who I kind of like?
Yeah.
Get the odds. Oh, give me. Let me look these odds up. Hold on.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you
All right. So in the Firekeepers iCasino Sportsbook app, you can get real value on, like, I don't love the value on Alabama between, you see at certain places like 330 plus 400. But I do think he's right about hedging. Michigan State plus 2,200, real good value, right? Because on this side of the bracket, you don't need them to win the national championship. If they get to the Final Four, at plus 2,200, the opportunities to hedge are there. Kansas State, you're seeing plus 2,800, plus 3,000. I think Kansas State's really good. If these teams win 2 games, and one of them, by the way, has to win, they play each other. You get to the Final Four, you really can't lose if you hedge correctly. So I think that he's 100% right, that's where the value is. And Alabama, I don't see it quite as well, just because, despite being on the side of the bracket. But I would say Michigan State and Kansas State are 2 teams to sprinkle a little on and plan to hedge later if you need to.
Aaron Voss next. Number 1, this past weekend reduces the chances that Tyson Walker returns for a 5th year. 2, this past weekend will rejuvenate Izzo for another 5 years. 3, in post-game interviews, Izzo should have taken a victory lap about not courting a center from the portal. And bonus, Catalone, Lapis, and Erdahl were a first-rate crew for TV. Kenny Smith continues to be second-rate.
I love Kenny Smith on the NBA stuff. He's, all the pro guys doing the college stuff it's just okay.
So what?
Yeah. Well.
Right, don't watch it. Chuck's fun to listen to sometimes, but if you're really watching that for in-depth analysis, I don't know.
I've heard a lot of people say they like Lapis.
Right.
I haven't not heard. I don't know if I've heard much of the broadcast at all because usually I'm in a press room where the sound is down, And so you're not hearing what the actual commentators would say. I want to go to number one. This past weekend reduces the chances that Tyson Walker returns for a fifth year.
I agree.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this before. It was the same with a guy like Xavier Tillman as a junior. Like, that was his moment in college basketball. If this is your moment and you lead, say he takes Michigan State to a Final Four, especially, and he does it at the Garden. I mean, the guy's from New York, right? He's doing it in front of friends and family at Madison Square Garden, takes Michigan State to the Final Four. Like, it's hard to duplicate that. I'll say this, though. These guys are going to have interesting decisions. And a couple years from now, when the fifth-year thing's gone, it won't be there anymore. But these guys who aren't NBA guys, and I'm not saying he won't get a look, but he's a small guard. Like, what do you do if you're not really an NBA guy? And you can take a shot at the NBA. You can go overseas and start making a hell of a living if you're a guy like Tyson Walker. Maybe he'll get a shot. I mean, he's a guy who makes tough shots. And if he does
dunks, I saw him dunk. I was like, wait, what the fuck? Is the Sky Mint hitting, or did he just dunk?
Yeah, the NBA is not going to love his size. But, he'll get a look. He'd be on a summer league team, certainly.
Yeah.
But if you've got another year in college, now I don't know that he can get any better. I don't know if he can change who he is, but
and with the incoming class, I mean, does he want to come back?
And the thing is, how much NIL money is he making? Is he making six figures now? He might be. He really might be. I mean, I would not be surprised if he and a couple other guys are doing pretty well on that team. And so if you're making good money already and you like where you are, you like being a star. Now, I think there are some other issues about Jaden Akins needs to be a guy who gets the ball more in his hands next year. You certainly have Jeremy Fears Jr. coming in. So there are some delicate things there. But that's a very good point. Whereas in last year, the success that Joey Hauser had spurred him to come back. And I do wonder, I don't think, like if they lose to Kansas State in heartbreaking fashion, Tyson Walker might have had a taste of this, might be more motivated than ever to try and do something and be a legend at Michigan State. He's already elevated himself among some of the great guards, and when he's done, I'll I do that list where I do that top 50 and I update it. He's certainly well up that, and that'll be a fun debate to have.
Bill McLeod next. Number one, making the Sweet 16 is an accomplishment. Accomplishment, Jesus. It's okay to celebrate it. 2, Steve Lapis was wrong to say refs should blow the whistle in the last 2 minutes just to get a look at the replay. That's not what it's for. 3, Izzo's players play, tough players win mantra will be on display this weekend.
This is a weekend with a lot of, this is a toughness weekend. I don't think Marquette had the toughness that Michigan State had. I think Kansas State does, and that's going to make it a really interesting game.
But as far as his number one, I mean, we did ask, what would be, a couple of weeks ago, what would be, how would you be happy with a Sweet 16? And a lot of people said yes, right?
Totally.
So it's kind of just house money now.
To some degree. You get a little greedy, and you see the opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with being a little greedy, by the way, because, look, let's put it in NFL terms. The Philadelphia Eagles got all the way there. That should feel good. You got a fairly young quarterback. But look how many dudes they're losing. Are they going to get back there next year? I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes you get your moment. You might as well take it if the bracket unfolds nice for you. You don't know what injuries you might have a year from now. You don't know what might break for you or what could go wrong in a single elimination tournament. You are 2 wins from a Final Four with a backcourt that is absolutely elite at the college level, a pretty dang good roster, and a group that's been through a lot with a coach who knows how to win at this level. If you don't win the next game, I can also understand being disappointed. I just think when you get a month out, you'll feel like, boy, that was a decent run. They did some things this year, and that game against Marquette is going to linger as an accomplishment.
Cara Lee next. Number one, be it all the Izzo needs to go chatter, the inconsistency and plaguing injuries of the season, and or the February 13th tragedy that weighs on all Spartans and the surrounding community, this Sweet 16 berth is more special than any of the past 15. And because of that, regardless what happens in NYC on Thursday, this season will be forever cherished. 2, Couch and Rexroad could win 2 out of 3 versus Hogard and Walker.
I appreciate you, Kara, but there's no way.
Going for that gift card, huh?
Yeah.
3, because of what I said in take number 1, this Sweet 16 berth, regardless of Thursday's outcome, is greater than a Big Ten banner, regular season or tournament.
So that's an interesting question. They haven't had, it's because they had a canceled tournament because it's been a minute because of the pandemic in the last 2 seasons since they had postseason success. Did this?
Well, ask Purdue.
Well,
They trade both of those to be in a Sweet 16.
That's a really
Big
good
Ten
question,
tournament
people.
and the regular season. I mean, honestly, I know
a
the
great
Big
poll
Ten,
question.
the regular season championship, Big Ten championship, debatable, but I'd still Sweet 16. It gives you a chance. People are excited.
I feel like this year, this particular one, I feel like it's what you haven't done in a little while. They've been to a Final Four their last run, and that was a year they won the Big Ten title. But they won a Big Ten title in 20, even though there was no postseason. That's a really good. This was Hopcat worthy. Certainly in the kissing up to the Rexroad and I 2 out of 3 versus Hogard and Walker. I would say this in our heyday. In 2013, when Joe and I were playing our best off each other in a 3-on-3 tournament, we would have gotten our asses absolutely killed. But we might have scored 1 point in a game to 11. They would have underestimated us. And unlike the Purdue guards, Joe and I wouldn't be scared. We wouldn't be shook. Right up into my rectum, and it was painful.
Mike Scott next. Number 1, I was wrong about this MSU team. My apologies. 2, I'm not sure if a Tom Izzo team has improved so much defensively from the regular season to the NCAA tourney. Brilliant defensive coaching, too. 3, if Tyson Walker were 5 inches taller, he'd be an NBA player. And bonus, the Big Ten is ass. Well, there's one. Mike?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt of Tyson. But if I were 12 inches taller, I'd be an NBA player. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff, you know? I mean, if I were...
Would you? 12 inches?
12 inches tall, I'd be 7'2".
Yeah.
You don't think it's 7 foot with every other skill you have? Like, obviously, if I was 7'2", I may be like some completely uncoordinated person who couldn't stand up.
Yeah.
But if you just took everything you are today and went up a full foot, yeah, I'd be in the fucking NBA. I'd be a stretch.
But that doesn't mean you're an automatically good player. I mean, you still have to have it in you.
I have it in
just
me.
because you're 7'2". There's a lot of 7'2" pieces of shit.
But I'm
in the
saying
NBA.
this, if I'm the same person I am today, I'd be 40-3 in the NBA if I was 7'2".
Oh, I see. Is this a bid or
no?
Oh,
it's not really. It's not really.
But if Walker can prove that he can score, right? I mean, I think you just have, like we always say, you just have to have one good thing that you do well.
Yeah, I mean, what'll be interesting about Walker at the next level is he's certainly a guy who can get into you defensively, and he can hit shots, and he can run a team, and that's what he'd have to do. The problem he's going to have, and we saw this with bigger guards like against Ohio State, is you can bully him. You know, and that at the next level, if he's guarding a 6'4" point guard, 6'3" point guard coming downhill, like how does he hold up defensively? I don't, you know. Then again, I mean, Cassius Winston, a little bit bigger than him, but not much. A lot, not as athletic. Bounced around for a little bit. You know, I'll be interested to see Walker. He certainly got the confidence, and guys who are small, who understand how to play with their limitations. You know, those. They've been small their whole life. You know what I mean? Like that lefty hook or that lefty layup he hit off the high glass late, that's a really hard shot that most people never develop because they don't have to. That's a guy who on every playground he's been on, he's had to deal with guys trying to swat his shit, right? So he knows how to do that. And there's no doubt if he was a 6'5" guard, he would have been in the NBA 2 years ago. And he never would have gone to Northeastern.
Nestle's Quick Hotel next. Number 1. Last week, if you'd told me that MSU would be 2 of 16 from 3 and win, I'd have burned you for being a witch. Then this week, I'd be running from the cops. But you know what? It's worth it. I'd burn myself right now for a Final Four. Speaking of burning, thank you, Skyman. 2, okay, so was there a better site for games than Columbus? Just some of the most exciting games of the tournament, plus a chance to see history if FDU pulls this out. Hey, future people, do they do it?
Oh, so he put this in there early.
No.
Oh, no, this must have been in the Sweet 16 game. They did not pull it out, or the second round game.
Cover the spread.
Yeah, we appreciate what you with Skymint, by the way. And
lots of Skymint.
It was a really good Skymint weekend.
Kill the gambling losses. Pain.
Yeah. And by the way, you can elevate your edibles with their new Rising Gummies and some great deals at skymint.com. 30% off different eighths and gummies and all sorts of great offers there. I'm telling you, the best thing to do if you go to skymint.com is sign up for their emails. They pop into my email box every single day. I see a great offer I love, something that intrigues me. I go to Skymint or I order it online, and I got 3 in the greater Lansing area. Chances are you live within half an hour of Skymint, and you can have your Skymint delivered to you or pick it up. They're very knowledgeable, very cool people, and some great offers right now on live Rising Gummies at skymint.com. Yeah, Columbus was cool. I was a little down on it, but I had a great time. I like downtown Columbus. I was down on it not going to like someplace I'd never been. But, the truth is when I go to Ohio State, we're usually up near campus, or I don't really go downtown, and downtown Columbus has a lot going for it.
So did Nestle's Quick just not look at the box score and just waited for the show here to tell them who won?
Yeah, right. He just waited the whole time. God, I can't wait.
Pat Caverly next. Number 1, watching that game was like having a root canal. Never comfortable thinking they were going to win. 2, Maddie's blocks will go down in Spartan lore as 2 of the greatest plays in MSU tourney history. Wow. 3, maybe Izzo has the last laugh. Not getting a big man in the portal?
Well,
Don't
certainly,
coach my team.
The farther they go in this tournament without that being something that costs them, I mean, if they don't lose because of that, or let's say they won the whole damn thing, certainly he gets the last laugh. I think everybody would agree on that. They would happily, and if Sissoko plays well, the thing is, while Sissoko was very good at the end of the game, and I think the big thing that's changed with Mady Sissoko that's important is when he screws up, and he does screw up in every single game because he gets a little lost and he's new to things, and he sometimes will play under a screen. You're like, what is he doing? Or he'll just get lost on a ball screen. He's not letting it affect him long-term in that game anymore that much. Did a little bit against USC for a minute. They took him out. They rode Carson Cooper for a while. But that's a big change because in January when that stuff was getting in his head, he was just unathletic and he was struggling the whole game. And so that's helping. A guy can struggle at one point, come back, have 2 key blocks later. Cooper's development obviously has been important as well. The season could have been easier if they had a more developed, better big man. There's no question about that. But if Sissoko gives them enough at the end, then that will be all that matters.
Watching that game was like a root canal, though. You got to get the happy gas.
Yeah.
I had a root canal. I didn't feel shit.
Yeah. We got to send a Skymint and ask them to up your dose.
Joey Maledge next. Number 1, MSU's collapse in Iowa City propelled the run like the Notre Dame loss in football in 2013. Silver linings. 2, Trey Holloman will grow into the second coming of Cassius. And 3, MSU versus Kansas State goes to overtime. Lock the prop in.
I do think it'll be a really close game.
What's that pay?
Overtime? I haven't seen that
don't
yet.
Look.
Okay.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
We'll look.
I like number 1 here.
More takes.
I do think that the Iowa game, what's funny is I remember when the Iowa game happened thinking there's nothing good that comes out of that. It was going to hurt their Big Ten tournament seed, which a million things happened. They wound up getting a double bye, and then they wound up losing anyway, so it was all irrelevant shit. And it affected their NCAA tournament seed maybe. But didn't matter. They won it as a 7 seed against a 2. The game wound up actually helping them because I do think this team is a lot less likely to blow a lead, to take anything for granted late. And they understand what they did wrong in that game. And that Notre Dame game in 2013 is one of those games where sometimes you wonder if that didn't happen, if the refs didn't call all those pass interference calls, if they had won that, would have they still been the team they were the rest of the way? And if so, might have they won a national championship? But it certainly, there are things you learn from that. And I think the Iowa game wound up being one that is paying dividends right now, and by some luck and circumstances didn't actually hurt them.
Mojo Jojo next. Number 1, Joey Hauser absolutely deserved that standing ovation. Rarely in life do things work out the way you expect, and equally rare is someone's journey and effort intersecting with recognition on a big stage. Sports gives us that, and it was Joey's turn against his former team. 2, Tyson Walker goes on a Kemba-esque run to lead us to the Final Four and has the games of his career at MSG. He may never play there as a pro, but with his fam around him and a New York kid playing in the pinnacle of basketball arenas, he rises up and continues to put the team on his back. 3, wins like this are mana. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
so. Yeah.
Wins like this are
We'll work on our vocabulary later.
Mana for the fan base. We hear the doubts, the last 2 years of disappointments, the lesser talent, the ghosts of tourneys past. But seeing this team and Izzo at 68 cheer, cry, care, and convince us that we can continue is why every Spartan loves March.
So mana in the Bible, it's unexpected or gratuitous benefit. It's also in the Bible a substance miraculously supplied as food to the Israelites in the wilderness.
Wow.
I will work this into my next column for sure. But I do like the number one thing. Like, I do think there are talking to Joey Hauser, and I wish I included this quote a little bit, and Kyle Austin from MLive had a really good quote from him too about what that felt like. Think about how rare we get that in a moment where you've been through everything he's been through. He loses his shoe for a second, and the crowd just starts chanting Joey, Joey. Like, how good that must feel inside. And you almost wish everybody in life at some point would get that feeling where you do something well enough and you're appreciated to the point that people just chant your name. And, I mean, I guarantee you right now, from talking to Hauser, that will be with him the rest of his life. And that is a really cool moment and a moment of appreciation. And it counters a lot of the shit he went through because he understands that the people really do appreciate him as well. And that's a fun thing.
Preston Zantello next. Number one, Izzo made the right call at center. We've seen flashes from Mady all year, and he's delivered in the tournament. Marble and the Iowa State guy didn't make it past the first weekend.
It's true.
I know, but wouldn't it be great to have Marble?
He did go 8 points, 1 rebound. The two guys combined for like 9 points and 2 rebounds, and we're out.
Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, totally. I'm
just saying.
Julius Marble would have helped. That said, I will say this, however, in the roster construction long-term thing, and having Julius Marble does not mean you couldn't have Carson Cooper. But Carson Cooper might be, on this particular roster, the third best NBA prospect. Maybe so. And I'm just, stay with me here, Jason.
I'm here. Yep.
Okay. Joey Hauser has a chance. We'll see if he's a second round pick. We'll see. He'll get a look if he can shoot. He's 6'9". He'll get a. He'll be a certain kind of role player with that specific skill. He's got a chance. Jaden Akins, given his size, if he becomes a ball handler, that'll be something that he's got a chance with his athletic ability to be a guard in the NBA and to develop into that. I think Cooper's the other guy on this roster, given his size and athleticism at 6'11" and skill set, that has a chance too. And the long-term value of him, if bringing in another guy, that's an interesting. I think in a couple years you might go, boy, grateful that he's there. Now, given the open scholarships, there's no reason both couldn't have happened. And so that's the flaw in that argument.
John Crager next. Number one, I don't recall MSU being in a round of 32 game this intense in a long time. Graham, do you recall one? 2, I'm trying not to peek ahead, but a Final Four seems very achievable. 3, Duke, Kansas, and Purdue all losing in the same weekend brings a great amount of joy to me. Unless you have money in a parlay.
Duke was the team I thought after their first game was going to do well. The team I've lost the most money on in this tournament was Duke.
Wow.
Because I threw them in like 46 teasers. Like, oh yeah, Duke's going through. That I guarantee. That's why it's just, yeah.
It just started Saturday with Furman, and I'm just like, I know this is going to be a bloodbath for me.
Yeah, you get a late goal, and then I had some soccer bets that went awry. Brentford didn't win.
And Gonzaga last night, did you see that one with TCU, where TCU just chucked up a 3 to go?
That's the stuff. And I'll be honest, NCAA tournament gambling is still better than conference tournament gambling by far. Stay away from conference tournaments. But it is, you want to, do what Jason did, where all of it just winds up putting you down $100 because limit.
I got really lucky with the Scheffler bet, but.
Limit your bankroll, though.
And then I hit early on Thursday, so then I rolled that up to like 300, and then it just was and then I threw 100 on top. I do think the NCAA tournament is sort of like a golf tournament in the sense that if you can have, if you can go in and put in 4 or 5 futures bets to make the Final Four to win the whole thing, and you get
a couple of them left when you get to that second weekend, it gets fun, and you've got some action on something that, that's a good way of doing it without losing too much.
Ricky Lombardi next. Number 1, the Tyson Walker, Marquise Noel matchup of NYC area natives is going to be so much fun. Go back and watch K-State's game if you didn't catch it live. Noel was doing his best Mahomes impersonation with some amazing assists. 2, Sissoko is one of 16 remaining starting centers left in the tourney, and for a weekend looked like he belonged.
Have you seen Marquise Noel play?
Yeah.
Much? I mean, first of all,
K-State.
Yeah, he hits pro shots, and a couple of the passes he makes. Like, he is
got confidence.
Yeah,
scares me.
That is going to be a fun matchup. It's going to be a
points.
Fun matchup with those guards and how Michigan State deals with him and tries to keep him in check. And that is a team that is done well in the portal with some of those guys for sure.
But with Sissoko, it's just people wanted to like Sissoko early on in the season. Showed glimpses that he could be a good big man. I don't know. Just something happened the rest of the way.
Well, that's the problem, is people were really worried about him. He came out like freaking Wilt Chamberlain for a couple games, and then he disappeared. And so, like, it was a wild roller coaster for people.
It's the
and
same with Joey. It's like we just see these guys, they do it in certain games. You're like, well, shit, where is that? It's inside of them somewhere. So that's why I think people get discouraged a little bit.
And I think what people struggle with sometimes, and a lot of people don't, you got to keep in mind, Twitter is a very small percentage, and the people who misbehave on Twitter are even a smaller percentage. But when there's frustration, to channel that frustration correctly. It is fair to be frustrated for a couple years that Joey Hauser wasn't the player that you hoped he'd be. It is fair to think Michigan State Tom Izzo and his staff should have really gone after another center in the portal. This doesn't work. But channel that correctly, and I think most people do. Most people like Joey Hauser. Most people, although there was some of the Joey Hauser stuff was pretty mean. But I think people like Mady Sissoko. That I'll say. I do think people get frustrated with him, but there's a lot of people like him. But I would say this: if you wouldn't say something to somebody's face,
get off Twitter.
Don't say it on Twitter, or apologize for saying it.
Don't
the next
quote
day.
tweet,
and don't quote tweet ever.
Richard Kane with just one ear. Do Big Ten coaches play a style that is ill-suited to be successful in a single elimination tournament?
No, I think it's more the roster that some of these guys. I mean, some of these just weren't elite rosters this year. They had limitations, and no, they did not have a lot of up-tempo teams. They don't have a lot of, Iowa doesn't play any defense. Doesn't have a lot of athletes that really hurt you. And then a lot of teams don't play with great pace. But, the Big Ten, and I did this, and I'll retweet this column at some point. I did this column a year ago, and I'm going to write about the Big Ten again either tonight or in the morning. The Big Ten still has, I think, more Final Four appearances and more by more teams in the last, 20 years than anybody else. It really is a misnomer. There's been a couple years here with these gigantors not going on, but it really isn't real overall.
But isn't the lack of winning it all, though?
Well, that's a whole different thing. But what makes a better league? Having the most Final Four teams? You haven't had the elite team, but does when Kansas wins it or Baylor wins it, does Oklahoma State really get credit for that? They haven't done shit. They haven't done anything more than Indiana's done.
No, but I'm just saying for someone that doesn't follow the Big Ten and you see the Big Ten not have a national championship in a while, so maybe that's where people get it from as well.
I get that. And they really could use winning one of these years.
Hey, Andy Schofield next. Number 1, MSU locked Marquette down all game and mostly controlled the pace. 2, this win was a result of Shaka Smart being terrible in the tourney. And 3, saw Graham in my hotel this weekend, and he's built like a D1 athlete.
Appreciate you, Andy. I think you tweeted out that I was in a robe, but I was not in a robe.
Boy, he wanted a gift card, didn't he?
That was a good.
You walked around in a robe?
I wouldn't walk around. No, I didn't walk. I don't know. Yeah, I was
Rodney Dangerfield.
That was
awesome.
I was at a courtyard. They don't have. They don't come with robes. You got to be at a little higher end place for the
bring your own
for the robe treatment. I think Shaka Smart had a rough day. But some of that was sometimes when and his point guard had a thumb injury, which wasn't helpful. But also, some of it is you wind up in a matchup that's not working, and sometimes adjustments are hard. If the matchup goes the other way at the beginning, and I think Michigan State just had enough. And if a Michigan State played Marquette 10 times on a neutral court, I think Michigan State wins 6 of those, maybe 7. I just think that matchup and those guards, that would work for MSU.
Jarrett next. Number 1. Soon, Carson Cooper will have plays with him being the number 1 option on offense. Whoa, that's hot. 2. Was that MSU's worst shooting performance from 3 in an NCAA tourney win?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that.
So bizarre.
Do going 2 for 16 from 3,
Yeah.
And although the Hauser one was a big 3 late, that when
I know, but that was one of their
Hogarth found him.
strengths. It's like from 3 at the end of the Big Ten regular season, and now all of a sudden,
Well,
2 NCAA games they go cold. But
some of them were real. I mean, Marquette gets into you, and some of them were like late clock heaves. So it was really more like when they were 1 for 14 or 1 for 15 or whatever it was. It was more like 1 for 10 legitimately. But the 2 that Akins had that were wide open. And you could see he sort of lost confidence in that. He looked like a Purdue guard offensively all of a sudden.
And Malik Hall.
Yeah, and Hall had
It's
some
like Malik,
misses.
stop shooting threes, man.
Although then he did, and then he turned it over when they needed to shoot it because it was late in the clock, But yeah, no, sometimes that's I still think that Michigan State, part of the reason they did not win a national championship in 2014 when they had the best team that I've covered, the one when Appling's wrist also affected them, Gary Harris, Payne, all those guys, Dawson, was that the guy who wound up in the corner getting the ball all the time was sophomore Denzel Valentine, who was like a 28% three-point shooter. And it's like, how does that guy wind up the guy that's – now, part of it they left him open for that reason, but part of it was that was the way the offense is. He was the guy in the wing, and that's what was happening with Malik Hall. It's like that's the guy on the wing. You really could use that guy to hit shots. Now, Denzel Valentine became a 45% three-point shooter as a senior and a much better one as a junior. But as a sophomore, the fact that the ball wound up and his hands wide open in the corner so often was unhelpful.
Matt Venny next. Number 1, this is the most invigorated the MSU fan base has felt since 2019. 2, Purdue has officially put MSU's loss to Middle Tennessee State in the rearview window when it comes to Big Ten basketball talking points. And 3, Pie Day is an underrated holiday. A day when you can eat pie all day? Yes, please.
Yeah, that's like National Donut Day, Groovy Donuts.
Well, Matt, you're an adult. You can eat pie whenever you want.
I will say the one downside to Pie Day, when we used to do the show during the day here, because we're right next to the Grand Traverse Pie Company.
Yeah.
And I'd go in during like a commercial break here to get a cup of coffee, and there'd be like 74 people in line to get their free pie.
And that just cuts the line.
Sucked. Well, eventually, yeah, we learned that we'd make eye contact and we'd make that work. But for a while, for a couple of years on Pie Day, I was incredibly frustrated. Purdue has officially put MSU's loss to Middle Tennessee State in the rearview window when it comes to Big Ten basketball talking points.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it was a talking point. I think it was a hurtful thing for MSU, but I don't know that people look at MSU's done enough. They've been to a Final Four since then. I don't know that.
But I feel if you go, where were you when Michigan State lost to Middle Tennessee State? I think it puts it on another level. But
I'll say this: the Syracuse loss is way worse in the second round.
Sure,
Middle Tennessee played its ass off. Michigan State didn't even play that horribly that day against Middle Tennessee. They just got beat by a great team that day.
It's more personal for me because I was in a sports book in Vegas and the season was over after one day, so it wasn't fun.
No, I think Michigan State fans certainly, and Izzo said he talked to Matt Painter because he understood what Painter was going through. But I think Michigan State fans understand what Purdue fans are going through, and the idea that it was probably hard to watch the rest of that tournament after that happened. When you thought you might be in the Final Four, you might be playing for a national title. Yeah,
no way.
Yeah.
Jeff Haddis next. Number 1, Izzo is going to continue his FU tour all the way to Houston. 2, Izzo will win one more title before he retires. And 3, Carson Cooper has more upside than Jackson Kohler. This is going to lead Kohler to the portal at the end of the season.
So one of the things that I think will help and hurt with the portal is the fact that you don't have to sit out, I think changes the equation for when kids think they have to leave. And I think if kids can start to figure this out, kids with smart parents, reasonable kids, like if you're Jackson Kohler, I'm not saying you should stay someplace if you're not going to be a mainstay. And I think Kohler might still be a mainstay. But you ought to find that out. You don't want to leave too early. You don't want to leave before you know what you can become or what your role might be or what you might develop into. He's got a lot of skill. And Michigan State could be an incredible – look at the stage he gets to play on. Look at the – and I'm not saying he couldn't find that other places. He's got enough skill that other high majors will want him. But say that were happening where he was looking at it like, boy, Carson Cooper offers them a lot. They're bringing in Xavier Booker. But if you're a guy, I would still stay another year. I'd figure it out. I'd make that decision after next year. I wouldn't be in a rush to –
because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And who's going to leave? Who's going to be unhappy? Who's going to get hurt? What you may develop into. Maybe a guy like Kohler, now, what he can defend will determine some of what he can play, but he's certainly a guy they think can shoot a little bit too. He's smartly not taking threes because it gets him on the court by not taking threes. But there's a guy who might be able to play, with another big man at some point in his career too. So he's got enough skill to do that, and especially if Cooper or Booker can defend because of their length and quickness out a little more, then that creates some options for him. So I don't think it necessarily has to be all or nothing for him going forward.
Brian Mahoney next. Number one, not a hot take for anybody who went there, but fuck MSU parking. Forget that car, Tyson. You can have mine if you get MSU to the Final Four. Can you do that now? Can you just give a player a car?
It's NIL, right? Yeah, sure.
All right. 2, the basketball they use in the NCAA tournament are screwing with all these jump shooters. Bet unders. Do they practice with those in March?
It is weird. Like, they use a different ball that's apparently creating some of these problems. I don't get that.
And you play basketball. I played basketball. When you get a ball that doesn't feel right, it does screw you up.
I am somebody who am insistent. Like, if we're choosing which basketball to play with, I will fight to the death to play with the right one, the one that's going to work, the one that feels right on it. I do not want to play because that absolutely matters. The Tyson Walker parking thing. First of all, like this is what a certain coach would say. Not everybody's rowing in the right direction. If you're rowing the boat, like on campus, MSU parking should not be towing Tyson Walker's car so that he's dealing with that after midnight. When the guy needs rest going into a regional semifinal.
That shows you that Tyson Walker is getting some NIL money, because if I got my car towed at his age, I'd be freaking out because I wouldn't have the cash.
Yeah, Tyson
so
Walker's
he must be good.
And they probably had somebody go over and
like seriously
and deal with it.
Come
but
on, Pace.
MSU Park, Paces. I mean, look, I know parking is a revenue source. It is for downtown Lansing for a lot of places, but man,
real great.
There are a lot of aggressive jackasses who work in parking.
John next. Number one, as a subscriber to both the LSJ and the Athletic, for now, no MSU writer is unacceptable. You and Joe can submit your expense reports to me. Only 8 whiskeys per day, please. 2, love the performance of MSU, but the lack of conference teams advancing impacts perception of all.
I will keep the receipts and send those your way because usually I don't turn in the whiskey.
It's not about the whiskey; it's about the food.
Yeah,
you and Rex Road was hammer,
especially in New York. It's a little pricey. Yeah, I've had to turn.
And Windsor joins you guys.
Windsor's
he's
the
a big
worst.
Foodie.
Windsor's the worst because what Windsor does,
orders the cheesecake.
He just wants a taste. He's got great discipline, and I'm the fatty. He's the foodie. So he'll say like,
"Well, I don't know how good Windsor's."
He's got a great palate, but he'll order like dessert, like 3 different desserts, and he'll take like one bite, and then he'll push it at you and say, "I just wanted a taste," and then I'll eat the whole damn thing. And feel awful. Like he's the worst. He's the absolute.
And then waits till you leave, and then orders another slice.
Yes, probably does. No, there's no doubt the lack of conference teams advancing impacts the perception. The thing is, I don't think there are any consequences to that perception. Is it frustrating? Sure. Could the league use a good year or a good run? Yes, but I don't think there are any consequences to it.
Greg Hardwick next. Number one, it was an old school MSU victory, won by defense and rebounding. 2, you win in March with guard play. Walker, Hogard, and to some extent Akins are keeping MSU in games when shots are not falling. And 3, after last Thursday's game broke my brackets, I bet 5 long shot games on Friday. My FDU bet against Purdue helped ease my pain.
That's a great bet if you were on it. And I won a little on FDU.
Wait, like money line
Yeah.
or point spread?
Well, I bet money line. I had both.
Well, I know you. I was asking.
Yeah. Probably it was a long shot. It must have been.
All right.
Must have been.
That's true.
Yeah.
Duh.
So that's no, that's a great.
I just don't know if I'd ever fire on a 16 seed if I lost. My bracket was broke.
Yeah, and
It might be the last thing I do, but good for you, Greg.
I wouldn't have done it before the live line. Or before I watched a little of the game, and I should have tweeted it out. I apologize, and I will try to make it up.
I let you down.
Yeah.
Spartan Frank, number 1, Tyson Walker is in the top 5 MSU players ever at hitting clutch shots, even though lots have been forgotten in losses.
He's up there as a clutch shooter. There's no doubt. He is a fearless guy. And that's what also gives you a chance this late in games. But what's going to be interesting is sort of as he finishes up, and whenever that is, to put his career in context, because the guy only played a couple years, but 2 very productive years, especially this year. And, on that top 50 list, he'll definitely be, I would guess, I'll have to look at it, but my guess is he's in the top 30 already. And the
Can't
more
wait for that over the summer.
The more, it's going to be good.
No one will have a problem with your list.
No. Well, I got a call. So James Edwards, a little bit drunk, hanging out with Colton and a couple other people, called me as I'm filing my quick takes during the USC game. Called me.
We're dropping MFers now?
I picked up the phone because it's James. I think part of me thought I'd already filed somehow. I'm like, wait, did I fuck something up? Did he see it? And his question was, how did you not have Draymond Green in your top 10? That's what he called me about at the horn. Like, I was like, oh. So I called him back later, and it's pretty simple. I mean, he wasn't in the top. He had a great senior year. He was tremendous. I had him like 11. But, he was an All-American, but was he better than Denzel Valentine's senior year? No. Was he better than Cassius Winston on the all-time list? No. Was he better than Sean Respert? No. Like, you can go down, and there are just it's an illustrious list at the top, and it's not about what you become as an NBA player. Now, it is program impact, is what I called it. So you can argue that his affiliation with MSU and the contributions financially and the way he stayed in contact, that he's moved up since, but it's not supposed to have any, who somebody becomes as an NBA player doesn't actually matter.
DMB next. Number 1, I love Windsor, but leaving the Marriott for a better bed in Columbus is peak elitist journalist. Struggling industry, my ass. 2, Izzo should just take a pass on future Big Ten tournaments. What a scam. 3, this team deserves it all. If they can shoot the 3 ball, why not them? Bonus. During your 69 with Rex Road in NYC, tell him thanks for cursing the football team and heading south. We don't miss his smug columns. Couch is our new hero. Not the one we deserved, but the one we needed.
DMB battling for the gift card. And this was good. This was very much a hot take. Worthy.
Had it all.
Yeah, had everything here. The Windsor, in Windsor's defense, he did find Columbus overestimated how many people needed hotel rooms in town. And so the prices actually dropped as we were there, and he found a cheaper rate. So
Super 8?
No, it was like he went from like a Courtyard to a Renaissance. Marriott properties only, which does sound elitist now that I think about it. But I'm with you on the 3-ball thing is interesting because we haven't seen them do it yet, and we have seen them do it for 3 or 4 straight games late in the regular season. You if you're Michigan State, you're hoping you get that opportunity to have that one game because
but you've won 2 games. Like shooting like shit.
But
that's got to be a confidence boost.
Oh, absolutely. But if you can do the other things too, what I'm saying is you haven't had it yet. At some point, that's got to be in you, right? Now, teams have been scouting Michigan State, and both USC and Marquette ran them off the line. They were making them win in other ways, and to Michigan State's credit, they did.
Chris Eastlick next. Number 1, the Big Ten once again is showing it's not as good as we think it is during the regular season. 2, this feels like the most wide-open tournament ever. And 3, if we can get past Kansas State, I'm confident this team is going to the Final Four. Izzo on the second day against Rick Barnes with a key injury seems like a good chance. And bonus, Solari, the 7-minute man, telling Graham that there's a lot to cover here on Spartan Speak after Graham finished a thought was incredible.
That was from this morning's Spartan Speak.
I got to listen.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I almost said something to him. So we're in the. I'm on like 4 hours sleep. I'm tired to get up to do a podcast before I leave Columbus, and I might have rambled a little bit in a thought, as I occasionally do. You're well aware. And I covered a couple different things. But Solari said to me, there's a lot to cover there to go back to it. I was like, man.
You guys should have had it out.
Oh, yeah. No.
Lack of sleep fight on Spartan Speed.
Too tired to do it.
Fart Soup next. Number 1, with MSU and Rexroad in NYC for the next round, Graham will finally get his long-awaited felony indecent exposure charge. Felony. Got everything hanging out. 2, the Rube will be called upon to bail both of them out of jail, but will end up in Atlantic City instead, riding an 8-hour blackjack heater. Appreciate you.
That checks. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Boy, how the tables turn if I'm bailing people out of jail. It'd be the greatest day of my life. I would not go on a heater just to pick those guys up. That would be amazing.
I appreciate you.
Graham would be a pervert, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to bail out the pervert. That's not the best guy to bail out.
Bo McJunkins, number 1. I take back my fragile comment on Saturday. I've been critical, but no one deserves it more than those guys. They've been through hell. 2, Kenny Smith is a moron. What is this dude's deal with MSU? Never had anything good to say about Michigan State. Worst guy on that crew by a long shot. And 3, God damn it. Fell into Graham's Matt Painter is a nice guy after watching him stay for all those questions. Maybe he's not so bad. Maybe I hold a grudge from Purdue being so bitter about Dawson.
What Matt Painter did in the press conference was, and I was there, was
you guys, you sports writers, just all tweeting about Painter sitting around for all the questions. Like, no shit. What is he supposed to do?
Yeah,
he's not going to cut it short. He's not. Listen,
right.
Matt Painter's not a dummy.
That's the thing. You have to be a moron. There's only one way to sort of win the press conference.
Soften the blow by letting everyone ask a question.
And not only that, be the guy that when the moderator says, "Hey, time for 2 more questions," you're like, "No, I'll take yours. What do you got?
I'm here all night.
Yeah, totally.
Give me a Diet Coke.
Whatever we got." Because there's no other way. I mean,
these guys know what they're doing,
and it just makes you seem human and likable. And before people have to go write about what a shit show you just pulled off in the NCAA tournament, for sure.
Rich Searing next. Number 1, Malik needs to stop hanging out around the perimeter and get down in the block where he is needed. 2, if Mady can play that kind of D next weekend, we make the Elite 8 and maybe the Final 4. And 3, Hogard will have a very hard time not following K-State's tiny but lightning-quick point guard.
It'll be interesting to see how they defend him, because I would think Walker, but what do they do with Akins is going to be on the wing, I would think, for sure.
Do you want Walker on him, though?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Scoring, but.
And there will be multiple things. My guess is they'll switch on him and they'll play the gaps. I don't think you can't keep him in front of you by yourself, and it'll be interesting to see. This is where I do think fans trust in Izzo. He's a Hall of Famer for his defense, and he's got 4 days to come up with a plan to best put Michigan State in a chance to stop these guys.
Joshua next. Number 1, the Orange Wilson balls is why MSU is shooting poorly from 3. 3-point shooting is down in the tournament. Does MSU practice with these balls at all? 2, Carson Cooper leaves for the NBA after next year and develops an outside shot. And 3, Mady still has a lot of room to grow, and that's weird to say for a third-year player.
And here's the thing about Mady, is because he's another guy who came in first year was the COVID year, and he's a guy who deserves that extra year because it did hurt his development. A guy hadn't played a lot of basketball. He's got 2 more years if he wants it, be it at Michigan State or wherever. And it will be interesting. I think Sissoko likes it at MSU. I think he's loyal to the coaches. I think the coaches like him. I can't imagine he leaves because, first of all, he's the starting center this year. But you could see how next year could evolve where his role gets diminished, and he'll have 1 more year after that. And that's where Dwayne Stevens at Western, or having Tum Tum as an assistant at Bowling Green now, would be.
I'd rather sit on the bench at Michigan State.
Or you can do that. Yep. But I'm just saying, if you want to play, I'm not saying Mady's going to transfer. He might grow. Here's the thing: he also is a guy who could grow into being a really solid Big Ten center, and it could be a situation where they have too many solid Big Ten centers, and that's a much better problem to have than what they entered this year with. Let's take a really quick break, and we come back. Many more of your hot takes. Couch in the Rue, presented by Skyman Premium Cannabis and Muskox high-quality flannels.
Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen, Bar, or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with 1 awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wondered just how comfortable you can be? Find out with Muskox high-quality flannels. Muskox is a Detroit-based company that creates durable comfort that'll last a lifetime. Muskox flannels are thoughtfully designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. This will be the softest flannel you'll ever buy, guaranteed. For every $100 purchase, Muskox will donate $10 to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. Get comfortable this fall and winter with Muskox flannels. Learn more or order yours today at gomuskox.com. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Wherever you are on your cannabis journey, let Sky Mint Premium Cannabis be your guide, your friend, and your place. Whether you're curious about cannabis or a seasoned connoisseur, Sky Mint's knowledgeable staff will help you with a vast selection of products to choose from to fit your needs. Sky Mint believes access to the best cannabis helps people do good and feel good, so they grow it right here in Michigan, giving you high-quality, locally grown cannabis at highly accessible prices. Visit skymint.com for special offers and location information throughout Michigan, and use the promo code CouchAndRube20 for 20% off your first visit. Sky Mint Cannabis. You'll love this place. Hopcat exists at the intersection of great beer and delicious food, complemented by music, art, community, and comfort. Home to the best-in-class beer experience served by craft beer experts. Guests can expect a casual, inviting local gathering place with some of the best damn burgers and fries you'll find in Michigan. Hopcat is proud to be an official supporter of Peyton Thorne. Show your Spartan pride by ordering the iconic Peyton Thorne burger, created by the man himself. And don't forget about Spartan basketball. Hopcat is your pre-game headquarters for basketball all season long. Catch the game at any of our locations: East Lansing, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, and Holland. To plan your next trip to Hopcat, visit www.hopcat.com. Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com.
Find Couch and the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch and the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, inspiring everybody to feel better, look better, love better every damn day of your life. Go to skymint.com for location information and specials. And our Monday night show, presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels, including their new spring collection, which you can find at gomuskox.com/spring. The flannel I just ordered was the 3 Seasons Flannel Vintage Sky, which makes my eyes pop. So if you see my eyes popping when I'm walking around town.
Is that in the ad copy, or is that...
That's just me making it up. They'll probably drop their sponsorship after this one, but... Nonetheless, I look good in it. That's the thing. We both talk about this. Like, you and I are ugly people.
Yes.
And we look good in Muskox. So if you are an ugly person, Muskox can help fix that. If
you're good looking, it'll make you even more good looking.
Absolutely. So if you have self-confidence already, it'll only add to it.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Rompus Dillashaw next. Number 1, Couch is a turncoat for saying MSU football shouldn't accept a bowl game, but then calls out North Carolina for not taking an NIT bid. 2, the official tourney game balls are causing bad shooting for everyone. And 3, Izzo has gone soft on refs.
Okay, so I didn't say that MSU football shouldn't accept a bowl game. I said it would be beneficial if they didn't get one. I don't think you – well, maybe if I did say that, then I did. I apologize. It's very possible I did say that.
I mean, we do sound alike, and I did say that.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I said there's no way you should accept a bowl game.
Okay.
5-7.
Rompus may have the receipts, and I'm not accusing him
he may
of
be
being
right,
wrong.
but I just know that people say we sound alike. So
yeah, it's possible. But yeah, I think you – the NIT too is that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I think you should accept the bowl, but I'm saying you should not.
I mean, not everybody gets excited for the NIT like Dickinson does.
Yeah, but he was being self-deprecating, But you take your lumps. I don't know. There's something about the NIT. It's just different in college basketball. I don't know how to describe it. It's less violent. It's more of the NIT is more storied. I don't know. Maybe I'm full of shit, but it in that case I'm absolutely a turncoat.
Spartan 18770. Number 1, if MSU plays defense the way they did against Marquette next week, pencil them in for Houston. 2, the best thing coming out of this tournament is the shot clock on the floor. 3, Matt Painter may end up having more Big Ten victories than Izzo when it's all said and done, but Tom will be considered the greatest Big Ten coach of all time.
Certainly Painter's going to have to get to Final Fours because it's not just about wins, because we just had the conversation about Izzo versus Bobby Knight, and the thing Knight has going, even though there's some other warts on that resume, are the 3 national championships, right? And so, yeah, I mean, Painter's going to have to do more than just Big Ten wins to
He's going to do a lot to erase past, 3 seasons. Sparty Ben next. Number 1, if Mady continues to play how he did versus Marquette, MSU could be in for a deep run. 2, how can the refs be that blatantly bad in the tournament? They didn't even try to hide the bias towards
Marquette.
Marquette? No.
Sorry.
3 of AJ's 4 fouls and 2 of Mady's were absolutely terrible calls.
So here's what's interesting. He's right, and I don't know about 3, but at least I remember 2 of AJ's fouls not being good, and
you even tweeted about it, didn't you, or something?
Yeah, at a point, I'm like, they're going to have to go to 6 fouls like in the game. Like, this is why I couldn't be a coach.
It's just bad.
I would sit down. I would tell my players, we're not taking the floor. We're just going to sit down until they change the rule.
And stop letting the offensive player make contact first with some of these guys. That's where the ticky-tack fouls come from that I can't stand.
Well, on some of them, though, one of AJ's offensive fouls, the guy, it was totally didn't have position. I don't know, it was.
And again, I understand bang plays and all that stuff, but it happens multiple times.
Yeah, and that's why you go to 6, or you have something where you can challenge it at halftime and have it taken off, or one guy can go to 6 fouls, whatever. What MSU has though, and this is what we saw. First of all, AJ and Mady both did a good job of playing with 4 fouls, but they have depth through their versatility that they've created. Like when AJ Hoggard goes out with his 4th or in foul trouble, 2nd foul in the first half, we've seen in 2 straight games they just slide Tyson Walker into that role and they're fine. And most teams don't have that ability. They don't go to Trey Holloman. They go to, and with the Carson Cooper development, they're able to withstand this. And so one of the reasons Michigan State has a chance to make an even deeper run here is because they have the depth to withstand foul trouble at key positions, because it's not that they have the deepest roster, but they have depth through their versatility. And that's something I thought they'd have earlier this year, and injuries kind of took away at one point. But the development a little bit of at the center position, and depending on who they're playing, which of those young guys they play, and then certainly Walker. And that started with the Ohio State game on the road a month ago, where they stopped really going to Holloman is the true backup in key moments, and rode Walker.
Cinemod next. Number 1, this was a great win. Never want to hear another word from the Fire Izzo crowd ever again. 2, we got a huge break by not having to play Oscar Schwebe and Kentucky again. Yep. 3, get Joey some new shoes for Thursday. Bonus. We have stayed mostly injury-free this year. Akins at the beginning of the year, then Hall for a few weeks. Seems like every year we deal with injuries. Nice to be on the other side of that for once, knocking on so much wood.
So I actually disagree with this. I mean, they were without, I think it changed their team. Now, maybe it's allowed them to develop into something else late, but they didn't have Akins for 3 months, really 2 months. Then he was back, then he was out. And the team developed without him, and that really changed the season. And they weren't competitive in certain games like Alabama because they were without both those guys. And and Hall, it's really affected the year. I don't think they've had injury breaks this year. I guess you could have worse injuries than they've had. And I actually, it's weird because I was trying to figure. I'm watching the game, Kentucky and Kansas State, and I was trying to figure out like what's the better matchup. I think Kansas State is 100% the better team than Kentucky, but I agree here that matchup wise, Kansas State is the better team for MSU to face.
Kentucky would just beat themselves, though. It's unbelievable.
Very possible.
Eric Larson, number 1. Izzo should have gotten a 5 in the portal. This trio is hopeless. 2, Izzo is washed. Game is passed him by. And 3, MSU needs a 6 seed to get out of the first weekend. Bonus. What'd you think of my overtime free throw performance?
So, he was in the free throw contest at halftime, and
oh yeah,
yeah.
Did he win?
He did. I don't. That's a good question, Eric. You got to keep me updated on what wound up happening with in the final.
I take it he didn't. Have mentioned it maybe.
It's possible. But these are like straight out takes from February, right? The idea that they needed to get a 6 to get out of the weekend. I mean, it's all the things we think, and then it comes down to matchups. And what I mean by that is, if MSU had been a 6. They would have faced Kansas State, perhaps, instead of Marquette. And while I think they can beat Kansas State, and I think the matchup isn't entirely horrible, I think Kansas State's going to be a harder game than Marquette. As tough as Marquette was, as good as Marquette is. And so there's the difference. Sometimes you just don't know. It just comes down to matchups and who's playing at the best time.
Sports Guy 1919. It is so refreshing to see better refereeing overall in tourney compared to Big Ten play. 4 minutes left in the half, and teams not in the bonus yet is common. However, the refs Sunday for MSU and versus Marquette were garbage, especially closing the first half.
It's interesting that you find that the refereeing better.
How many games did you watch, Sports Guy?
Yeah, and maybe they were in some. Maybe it's different in others. You know, there was
a few where they would let them play, but then all of a sudden they tightened down in the second half. It's like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. No, it's frustrating.
Midwest football guy. I'm sensing against all odds that this will somehow be the team that brings home another title. It's been torturous to watch as they blew leads in nearly every loss, which I think skewed people's understanding of how good they really are. This team's X factor is guard defense.
So, I do think. I don't think they're going to win a title. I think it takes so much, right? I don't think outside of maybe Alabama and UConn, I don't think you predict anybody to win a title because it's just hard to do. But I do think they have a real shot to get to Houston, and that is once you're there, then who the fuck knows, right? So, like it is interesting to watch this team, and I think they would win their Elite Eight game. That is not the same Tennessee team without its point guard, without much of an offense. They'll beat you up, but I think Michigan State's fine in that game. You can play a number of different ways.
Let's just talk about Kansas State. Let's start there.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Talk about Tennessee.
Right.
From the woodshed next. Number 1, Marquette will beat MSU because of the better defense, coaching, and connectedness. Izzo put on a defensive clinic, and we outplayed them despite 12.5% from 3. FDU is is this his third take? Is that 3? Okay. Second take?
No. It's all part of one. It's
from
it's
3,
him,
excuse me.
It's him surmising, yeah.
I got you. FDU is ass. They beat a number 1 seed and were a few shots away from the Sweet 16 bid. Graham's b-ball takes from Saturday were ass. Caw.
Yeah, they were not. They were not. Look, did I say Marquette will beat MSU because of its better defense, coaching, and connectedness? It's possible. I was.
I don't.
Yeah,
maybe.
I blacked out. A lot of Skymint going on. I did think Marquette was. I did not think MSU was going to win that game. I'll be honest. After watching Marquette, but it was pretty early in the game, and again, it's one of those things where you don't always see it until you see it with the matchup. Like early in that game, I thought, well, Michigan State's really got a shot here. Like
after Ohio State in the Big Ten tourney, I didn't see him beating USC though. I'm glad I ate crow on that. It's fun. Nick Palmer next. Number 1, a tip of the cap to all of us who called Purdue and Iowa not making it out of the weekend. 2, I can't be the only one enjoying watching Kentucky fans freak out over Calipari. And 3, UConn could beat Bama in the finals.
Could happen. And I got UConn winning the whole thing. I don't think I can win any bracket, though, because I've lost everything else. But the Calipari thing is weird because he's got such a large contract. They just can't – I mean, he's there as long as he wants to be there.
He's won one NCAA tournament game in 4 years.
Yeah, and
I saw that. I was like, what?
And really, they haven't been a threat in a long – it's just –
Well, he has a lifetime contract,
yeah,
though.
Yeah. And
that's why I don't know if you give those out anymore.
It's gone south there. Well, they gave Izzo one, really.
Well, Izzo deserves it.
Okay. Calipari didn't?
No.
Okay.
One win in 4 years in the NCAA tournament. DeUper, number one. We know how you feel about MSU's neon green, but have you seen the K-State pastel lavender jerseys? Yuck. 2, Izzo facing a roster built entirely from a transfer portal. The column writes itself. And 3, get ready to hear a lot of stale jokes about K-State playing in Manhattan.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be all sorts of Big Apple, Little Apple, Manhattan. God. It's gonna be rough. I don't know if this is the last time that K-State played Michigan State. I'll have to look at the notes. But I do remember being at a Kansas State, Michigan State game at Breslin in like 1996, 97. It was in that December of that year, I want to say. And Izzo's first or second year, NIT year. Not a great team. Neither team was great. And it was during the holidays. It was either you're playing the Coca-Cola Classic or over Christmas. It might have been over Thanksgiving. And so they didn't have the pep band, and they didn't bring the alumni band. Back then, they used to let like a local high school or middle school band be the pep band. So my sister's Otto Middle School band was the pep band, and they wore their colors at Otto Middle School, purple and white, the colors of the opposing team. So it was not a great look for Otto Middle School.
So fans were booing the kids.
They did not boo the 12-year-olds, but yeah, I mean they may have booed the clarinets because clarinets suck at that age, but they didn't boo the kids themselves.
Spartan Johnny next. Number 1, Joey had 14 and 10 that game, and I had no idea. 2, Tyson Walker is every bit to this team as Kenneth Walker was to Mel Tucker. And 3, effing Mady, Wakanda forever.
By the way, my last story on the auto thing was a story we're telling, presented by Midtown Brewing Company. It wasn't really a story we're telling, but it was still presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue. Great. Now, by the way, if you're working downtown, great place to catch games during the day when the NCAA tournament's going on, or a weekday Tigers game at 1 o'clock. It's underrated sports bar, but that's not really what it's known for. To me, it's just a great, cozy place to watch or to have dinner with a spouse or a friend, or have a conversation with a colleague. Wonderful menu and drink selection right here in downtown Lansing. Okay, Tyson Walker is every bit to this team as Kenneth Walker was to Mel Tucker. Too much?
Depends on how the season ends. I don't know.
I'll say this.
Kenneth Walker was pretty sweet.
The difference is that's really all that Mel Tucker's had going while he's been at Michigan State. Izzo's had a lot. So that it's not quite the same. I would say that, and Michigan State has, I don't think it's quite the equivalent.
I don't know if they win a national title.
Well, then it's the equivalent. Sure,
Final Four, yeah. B. Parker next. Number 1, MSU will beat Alabama in a rematch game in the Final Four. 2, that was one of the most Izzoist March Madness games ever, the way the scripts changed for both teams. And 3, Sissoko is a maddening player. If only he could find that level and stay there. And bonus take, refs are ass. The Alabama thing, I know Bama's at another level too, and they've been really good. But I remember watching that game in Portland at the PK80, and they were without Jaden Akins, without Malik Hall, a little rundown. It was just, I remember watching that game thinking, if they had Malik Hall, and they need the best of Malik, but that's really big against a guy like Brandon Miller. Like they really missed him in that game. Akins and Hall are the two guys who would guard him, and they didn't have either one of them. And so it would be interesting to see that game with those two guys. Plus size softball dad next. Number 1, as fun of a weekend as we've had in years. Took a half-day Friday and watched the USC game live. 2, if we get Sunday's Mady and AJ on Thursday, why can't they beat K-State? And 3, Walker looks like senior season Travis Trice.
He's better than Travis Trice senior season. I mean, Travis Trice was amazing late, but, I mean, Trice in January wasn't what Walker was when he was putting 30 on Purdue. I mean, Walker has been this guy all year, and that's the difference. Trice was it late in the year, but no, there's no doubt that Trice reached an incredible level.
2-6 baby, a.k.a. next. Number 1, go green. Oh, well, these are backwards. 1, with a week to recuperate, we're beating K-State. 2, 3s are coming, and 3, go green.
I mean, sometimes, like, what I don't know here, and I actually think the time helps them here. Do you want Izzo's known for the short preps? Do you want that, or do you want the extra time off? It's not a full extra week because they went from playing a Friday Sunday schedule to a Thursday Saturday schedule. But I think they'll take the extra time here.
Don't coach my team.
Peasy. Number 1, Tyson Walker is nice. Bring him back next year, and I think we're talking about one of Izzo's best teams. 2, Matt Painter is somehow going to find a way to lose to a 19 seed one of these years. And 3, brackets are fun, but making a gazillion of them is lame behavior.
I'll say this, that if you have so many brackets that you don't really know who your Final Four teams are, you lose some of the joy of it, right? It's not like
I was about to say, how many is a gazillion?
Yeah.
'Cause I think I did 4.
I think that's okay because you probably
But
have an
3
idea.
are for like just some it's ESPN thing.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? I like to fill out 3, get it out of my system,
Gotcha.
and have a final one that's complete ass. Christopher Wilson next. Number 1, all of the pontificating about how tough, good, deep, talented, etc. Big Ten hoops are each year is complete trash. Has been for at least 5 years now, too. Honestly, whole conference is middling. March proves it. 2, Tyson Walker can dunk. 3, so blessed to have Izzo.
So how you define a conference, and my buddy Scott Powers works for The Athletic in Chicago. He and I fight about this all the time because he thinks, like, if you don't have elite teams, your league sucks. And my whole point is, well, if your 13th team is better than the 3rd team in some power leagues, then it can't suck that bad. Like, it's just how you this year was incredibly, like, Rutgers before the injury, the 9th team, and the way Michigan was playing, the 10th team and the Big Ten at certain points were as good as the ACC's 4th or 5th, So, like, there are lots of ways to look at it. But there's no doubt that they have not had the high-end teams. And the high-end team this year that was high-end for a minute, Purdue, just didn't have the guard play to do it.
Greeny Green 777. Number 1, sweat equity, baby. 2,
Absolutely.
Mady was the MVP for state against Marquette. And 3, MSU is the favorite against KSU if the team, AJ, stays focused instead of reading the news clippings. State beats Kansas State. If not, State will lose the game. And bonus, go motherfucking green, baby.
I'm going to tell you, these
We're dropping MFers now?
These guys are not big news clipping guys. I mean, this is more than any other team I've ever covered. They got praised and destroyed game by game because it was such an up and down season, and nothing was ever consistent. And I'll tell you who does not care about any of that stuff is Tyson Walker. He really doesn't give a shit. It's very clear when you
It's
ask
probably
him questions.
good that you don't, though, right?
Totally. If you read too much of that right now,
Yeah.
and I think these guys know it too. They've been through so much this year. They know they're capable of losing every game from here on out. They know what's at stake. I don't think and they'll see the film on K-State real quick. They have by now, and they know what they're up against.
PMCK next. Number 1, outside of Purdue, criticizing the Big Ten in this tournament is weak. Expecting 7 to 10 seeds to overperform is order to justify their inclusion is weird.
Bingo.
2, burner account. 2, we need 6 fouls per player, and we need it now.
Bingo. This might be my first.
3, more of a question. Was it that some coaches just don't have that seems to – what is it that some coaches just don't have that seems to matter more in March? Matt Painter is such a good coach everywhere, but the tournament, make it make sense.
We didn't have guard play. He didn't yet, but the one thing that bothers me about Painter watching him is, like, late in that game when his guys needed reassurance and confidence, he was yelling at the refs way too late. Like, it just was like, dude, that's not the answer right now. You got
He's
guys
got a
who are
stupid-looking
Yeah,
face.
I did not like the way he handled that late. But otherwise, this does seem to be my burner account. I'm surprised it's not the hot take of the day.
There would have been some, like, Grant Long thing in there. Ken Chu, number 1, Mady was the catalyst for that win. 2, MSU doesn't win that game if they got a big in the portal.
Interesting.
And 3, MSU doesn't win that game if they hadn't lost the Iowa game.
The Iowa game, I definitely think helped. I don't know if they would have blown it because it takes, but there's a focus late and there's a play to the final whistle that is definitely in this team that helps. I'm not saying every year you want to lose a game that you're up 10 in the final minute, but
I think
it's
most
helping.
teams fold after that Iowa loss, though. I think that's what's more impressive about this team, too. Is
and
coming back
frankly,
from that.
they did for a half at Nebraska. They were shit. And then at halftime, they found it and decided they were going to have a different end of their season.
Matt C., number 1, the Big Ten is overrated, but MSU still has the best tourney coach. 2, Tyson is going to go Kemba Walker at Madison Square Garden. And 3, Kansas State and Rick Barnes on deck. No excuse to not make the Final Four. And bonus, Couch owes me $5 for losing our bet that more than one Big Ten team would make the Sweet 16. I don't want the money, Graham. We're all winners for you not having to wear the brazier, the brazier,
the bra.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
B-R-A-Z-Z-R.
Yeah. We are all winners for that. And I will send you the money. I forgot about that bet, but yeah, it's true. I was pretty sure they were going to get more in. Rick Barnes and I have an interesting relationship in terms of I have never seen
Gambling related?
No, it's just so 2 years in a row. They had a series going with Michigan State when I first started covering the team. And one year they played in East Lansing and Derek Nix looked like Akeem Olajuwon. He had 25 points and like 12 rebounds, and they never double-teamed him. The next year, Adrian Payne went down there and had 33, and they never double-teamed. It was like, I guess he just doesn't care about winning non-conference games, but it was like the worst coaching ever. Like, it was like, how do you not – these two guys are guys that are somewhat easy to limit and just chose not to do it, and I've never really forgiven him.
Cracker Sofa next. Number 1, Tom Izzo is not only the best coach left in the East region by a considerable margin, but the best coach left in the whole tournament. Will be in every game we play, no matter how far we go. 2, Carson Cooper will eat into Xavier Booker's minutes next year. 3, A.J. Hoggard, Tyson Walker, Jaden Akins, and Jeremy Fears, Trey Holloman will be the best backcourt combination in the country next year.
So Carson Cooper's development is going to be really interesting. And Booker's, I was looking at the minutes played by Jaren Jackson Jr., and it was just a little over 20, I think. Like, you don't have to play these. And he was more, I think, ready than Booker. I'll be curious to see exactly how ready Booker is by the time he shows up next year and what kind of strengths he adds. It has a chance to be a fantastic backcourt. It just, is there enough? And, what will, you can't have guys have the same role year after year. You can have Hoggard and Walker come back, but Aikens' role has to expand. And I think it will if he's healthy. But that needs to be worked on and understood.
Tyrone Couch next. Number 1, basketball used to be the best sport. Now refs make it hard to watch. Izzo is working on that, though. 2, Asian-owned donut places in the South are legit. Graham, give us the Groovy Donut Sweet 16. I'm sure the number of the Red Velvet will be the champ.
Yeah. Definitely.
3, Florida gets a bad rap. I've seen more crazies when you live in Michigan and in Tennessee.
The Red Velvet is for me with the cream cheese filling. It's a spiritual experience. 1 seed. It would not lose to Fairleigh Dickinson for sure. Better guard play at Groovy Donuts.
Which donut would be the Fairleigh Dickinson though? Quality Dairy donut sneaks in.
Yeah, it tries to come in and it would just get stomped. Florida gets a bad rap. I have no issue with the people of Florida. I don't have not spent a lot of time there. But every time I've ever been in Florida, I've had a decent experience. So,
JD, number 1, making the Sweet 16, got the monkey off their back. This program still has some gas in the tank. After all, who knew? 2, Mady and Joey have my full permission to hit me over the head with a 2x4 several times. And 3, Graham, it's too bad you weren't downtown Wednesday. You missed the black box truck circling the Capitol, blaring God Bless the USA over and over while the gun reform rally was ongoing at the Capitol.
Oh, man. If you want me not to be on your side of a rally, play
another good reason to have the show at night.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yes. I've seen it. I can.
That song. And it's not the lyrics. Understand, it's the melody.
I don't know if that's a song you blare over and over again.
It's the worst melody in the history of the world. I love the self-awareness, though. Mady and Joey have my full permission to hit me over the head with a 2x4 several times. This is somebody who understands they've been a little critical of Mady and Joey.
G.E. Miller, number 1. The middle 20 minutes of that game was the worst offensive basketball of the year for MSU. Need to fix offensive flow to keep moving on. Looked really lost. 2, Noel will be the best point guard MSU has faced this year. Will take a total team effort on D to stop him. And 3, if MSU gets past KSU, Tennessee is number 1 in adjusted D and looks the part. Bigger and more athletic than any team played this year. Getting to the Final Four will be an uphill battle. And bonus take from wife, who is an occasional casual hoops observer. Whoa, that was a really good defense on a Carson Cooper lateral closeout on the baseline in the second half. She was right. And MSU doesn't win that game without Cooper's defensive instincts and skill to back up Mady.
100% agree with that. Your wife is recognized that right away. Yeah, look, he was great at certain things. He doesn't rebound real well yet. That's where for a guy his size and with athletic ability, strength is going to have to pick up there. But his sort of closing out the baseline, he forced one guy to the baseline, and a pass was turned over and picked off by Malik Hall. He was terrific. I don't disagree with you on K-State, on Noel, and also the thing about Tennessee, though, is like Michigan State knows them. They played them in a scrimmage, and Tennessee's offense is so bad. I just think if MSU can shoot decently on that day, they might just outscore those guys.
Thomas Zambiasi next. Number 1, MSU is playing more than well enough to break the Madison Square Garden curse. 2, Mady and Joey deserve some special recognition for their growth as players. They've been vital to this tournament run so far. And 3, the men's tournament needs to embrace campus sites for opening rounds. I live in Bloomington and have been going to the games here for the women's tournament. The home crowd energy is really incredible.
So would you want, like, here's the thing, though. In Columbus, where it was a packed house for the Marquette Michigan State game, for the Purdue game, like the energy in that Nationwide Arena was incredible. You don't need it to be on campus. You had all sorts of mix of different fans from different places. I don't think you need it.
Neutral court.
Yeah, they do it in the women's game because they don't have the fan bases to travel. That's what baffles me about having the women's conference tournament a different weekend than the men's. Like, if you had it the same weekend and you used some of the same venue and some other venues, like you would just have all those fan bases there and people going. You'd have such a better environment, and I wish they'd do that.
And there's fans from all different teams in one spot. It's just a different vibe. I know what he's saying, but
totally.
Nah.
I just don't think it's needed. But there are places, what the crowd in Sacramento was it that looked really bleak. There are places where they do need to probably pick their tournament sites sometimes better. But some places like Columbus was incredible.
Some dude next. Number 1, appreciate the rarity of watching a total refs our ass game and not having to suffer the next 9 months after losing. 2, the next game is the ultimate test for our backcourt defense, and I love the matchup and different things MSU will throw at Noel. Keep him uncomfortable, and MSU wins. 3, playing like ass at MSG once this year is still an advantage over not being there at all. And bonus, Nate Oates has got a stupid-looking face.
He's got a stupid-looking face. I do think having been there, and they opened the season there last year, all these guys have been there. It does help. You're playing at a place that's familiar.
It's kind of a Graham take, though.
What's that?
Playing like ass at MSG once, it's still an advantage over not being there at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have to play there anyway, you'd rather have been there.
Yeah, and might as well lose,
Well, the first time, yeah. You don't want to lose again.
No.
And you want to have 14,000 Rutgers fans. If they show up again, that's a problem.
Carl Mylock, number 1, the NCAA does not care about hockey. The selection show sucks. Tournament games will be on ESPNU and ESPN News, and the regionals are held in the most random, inaccessible locations. Oh, and Western Michigan plays at 2 p.m. on a Thursday. I have a test at that time. 2, gambling on March Madness has been one of the worst decisions of my life. And 3, Izzo is back.
Carl, if you got a test, I know you're a young guy, and as somebody who's gone down some interesting roads in gambling, at this point in your life, you probably haven't made enough money to be the money in your life at this point is inconsequential. So get out now, or learn the lesson now, and take a breath, take a breather on it. But yeah, you're right about the hockey side. Like it's frustrating, and part of it, look, it's dictated by ratings and national interest. It's a regional sport, but they do better with the College Baseball World Series, which is also a regional sport. What baseball has going for it is less competition in terms of what hockey is up against right now. I also wish it would be best 2 of 3 in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. It's also asked that you work all year for a single elimination in hockey, especially in the first 2 rounds. Once you get to the Frozen Four, I get it, but that should be fixed.
Alex James next. Number 1, Chad Latz will be the next great MSU play-by-play analyst. His live backyard analysis Sunday was epic. 2, K-State is more athletic and battle-tested version of Marquette. And 3, Hall and Akins need to play better if MSU has plans of advancing further.
I have to go back and check out Chad's, if it's still out there.
Here it is.
Everybody stops and they're staring at me. I got passion in my pants and I ain't afraid to show it. Show it, show it, show it. I'm sexy and I know it.
There you go. If that was the analysis, I understand it now. I agree with all of these. K-State more athletic and battle-tested version of Marquette. I don't know about. Yeah, they are more battle-tested. The Big 12 this year was the best league, and there's no doubt that Hall and Akins need to raise their games offensively. But I think that's the beauty that they've, especially Akins. I mean, Hall has been up and down offensively. They've sort of learned not to have a lot from him. What they need, though, is, I mean, if you take everything MSU did in that last game and you add 3 3-pointers from Jaden Akins, that sort of game, it's 9 points. It just changes everything, right? So they really do need that. If they can get like 3 3-pointers combined from those 2 guys, that changes things dramatically.
Chris next. Number 1, I didn't pay attention to a single pro sport this week. 2, I'm not sure if I've cheered for one success like I have with Mady. And 3, I love Chad Latz. It's the best part.
Come on. I'm sexy and I know it.
It's the best part.
Come on, get up. Get into it, guys. Come on. Check it out. It's my favorite part. Wiggle, 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 yeah. Wiggle, 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 yeah. Wiggle, 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 yeah. Wiggle, 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 wiggle,
so
yeah.
Good. So good. I think a lot of people feel that way about Mady. Every time I talk to Mady Sissoko, I find myself hoping he does well because he is a nice guy, and he's also just relatable. Like we've all been
Matt Shepard, nice guy, or
but also relatable in this sense. We've all been places where we weren't the most confident in something, where we were concerned. Like some athletes are just they're very confident in their abilities, or if they're not, they don't show it. Mady lets you know, I'm a little lost here. Right? I'm nervous
just
about
grab
this.
the ball, Mady.
Yeah, he's relatable.
See it, grab it.
We've all been there where we lost confidence in something and we weren't sure of ourselves, and Mady says it out loud, and it's refreshing.
Ryan Allen next. Number 1, MSU will lose to Kansas State if teams continue to shoot 42% from 3 on us like they have over the last 6 games. 63 and 150 over the last 6 for 42%. 2, Kansas State is 15th in three-point defense percentage, so MSU could be in for another long shooting day. And 3, MSU will win Thursday by forcing Kansas State into 14-plus turnovers. They rank 328th with over 14 turnovers a game. MSU by 5.
Some good statistical analysis on. I may borrow that for the tip-off if you don't mind. Ryan.
Wesley Collins, number 1. Kentucky would have been a better matchup for us.
Sorry, I should have probably had more. But I mean, this is really it's good stuff. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to the takes, but I do think to Ryan's point, like I think Michigan State has gotten good. Like they know they haven't shot that well from 3, and they did have a couple wide open looks. But a lot of what's happened in the last couple games is them taking what's been given to them and scoring at the rim in ways they have not in a while. And I think that is a sign of real growth and maturity.
Wesley Collins, number 1, Kentucky would have been a better matchup for us. 2, there is something weird and wrong with this ball they're using in the tourney. Did you see all the stuck balls and the one that just came to a rest at the top of the rim?
Weird. So weird.
3, if you have a real game, you rally from going hard for 4 straight days of the tournament with St. Patty's Day mixed in and lean into Oberon Day at Hopcat at noon on Monday.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Wesley. That is, see, the stuck balls thing is weird. There was a One Shining Moment riff sort of mock video made of all the balls getting stuck. They did the One Shining one. I mean, it's been amazing. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, people, watching it just sit there and rest on the rim, that's pretty wild. Like getting it stuck in the side of the rim, you see that all the time, but it's pretty wild. It's happening more than usual, though. I mean, there's something up with it. I don't
basketball's out of here.
Why don't you just use the balls you use in the regular season?
Mark, next. Number 1, A.J. Hoggard will draw 4 offensive fouls at NYC. All right. 2, Izzo should really take the subway if he wants the real New York experience. And 3, MSU had more shoe issues than made threes, and they still won the game.
They did have 2 shoes that came off? One Joey and one, was it Malik? I don't know if there's anything else. If there was another one, I missed it. But yeah, that is usually the over-under. You can't bet on that. I've looked in the Firekeeper's Eye Casino and Sportsbook app. If I could bet on over-under shoes coming off, I would usually go under 1.5.
Smart. Jack Barham next. Number 1, sitting in a bar in Austin, Texas. Absolutely no respect for the Big Ten, and I think they're right. 2, MSU may have the stuff to go to the Final Four, just need Mady to keep the energy up. And 3, I'm concerned about the mole on Izzo's right neck. Somebody better check that out.
I hadn't noticed it, but I'm hoping, he's got medical people around him all the time, that it's been looked at. I would hope so, at least.
All right, hold on, because you tagged the. Hold on, I got to find this another. What are we on? Who are we on here? Jack Baum.
Andrew, yeah.
Number 1.
What did I do wrong?
It says view message, and you have to click on the hyperlink, and then it goes to like a whole thing, and it gets.
That's how many we had tonight, huh? That we don't usually have that issue. Wow.
So it goes all the way back to the top, and I just panic.
Okay,
Sorry.
yeah, no problem.
Number 1, what looked like it might be a season-defining loss became a season-defining victory. 2, Prosper should never have been on the Oscar stage. How do you flop after clotheslining a dude? 3, those 2 blocks by Sissoko were the biggest plays of the year.
I would take the shots that were made by Tyson Walker and certainly and A.J. Hoggard, and maybe the rebound by Hall too. But it's up there. It was part of that sort of coming together of a lot of plays by a lot of guys at the end, and it was a real. I mean, so one of them I thought was going to be goaltending for a minute too. But no, look, I didn't. I felt like there's a certain point where I felt like if they lost that game, it would have been a real shame because I thought they were the better team. And when they started to lose control of it, and they took back control of it, and I thought that was, you're right. I mean, that was a really important thing for that team to do.
Rydog next. Number 1, credit to Izzo for modeling composure for his team when most coaches would have lost their minds with the maddening officiating at times. The players responded and kept fighting. It was the difference in the game. 2, can somebody explain to me why AJ and Tyson seemed so lax about crossing half court against Marquette's press? It seemed like the space was there to get quickly across half court, and yet they seemed lax and nearly gave up several 10-second violations.
So Marquette does this. I mean, first of all, Marquette this is what they do in their press a lot of the time, and it's where they stop you. They understand you sort of run into them about 2-3 feet short of midcourt. And they've been doing it forever. So it looks like, there's room, but there really isn't. And at least from my vantage point, and I had a pretty good view right there. But it felt like now, late in the game when that's kept happening, you kept thinking, boy, they should see that coming and get rid of the ball before they get to that point. But I think they only turned the ball over twice against pressure, once on a 10-second violation and one other time. So it didn't really cause a huge issue for them. And they also, if you have one turnover on a 10-second violation and one alley-oop dunk going the other way to Carson Cooper from Malik Hall, I think that negates it.
Sparty and GL next. Number 1, Big was way overrated. MSU.
The Big Ten, sorry.
Big Ten is way overrated. MSU is the only team to make it through the first weekend with 3 of 7 losses coming to underdogs. In the NIT, Rutgers and Michigan lost to lower seeds. Sad performance. 2, enjoying this run right now, but feeling really good, looking forward to next year, especially if Walker or Hall return. 3, we get past Kansas State, but lose a close one to Tennessee. And bonus, I keep hearing that MSU has not reached the Sweet 16 since 2019, like it's a bad thing. Let me just point out that 331 other teams have not done it since 2019 either.
If that's the number, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. You can say since 2019, and it feels a long time ago, but it's just 2 NCAA tournaments where they didn't, too. You can frame it a lot of different ways. I mean, 2 straight years, they didn't get out of the first weekend, and one of those years they lost like a play-in game. The other, they got to the second round. Like, that's it. That's the extent of the dry spell. It really isn't that long.
Ball hard 5. Number 1, Tyson Walker and A.J. Hoggard dominate the next 2 matchups versus Kansas State and Tennessee, leading MSU to the Final Four. 2, early season Mady Sissoko has returned just in time to muscle MSU to a daddy. And 3, MSU will knock down 10 or more threes versus Kansas State and Tennessee, and will take all that momentum into the Final Four versus Bama.
If they knock down 10 or more threes in both those games, they will be in the Final Four. And I'm not going to make that promise, but I really, truly believe that.
So if they hit 10 threes and lose, what's the bet?
Okay, that's what I
tattoo.
Nah, I'm not doing the tattoo for that because it's too.
Chest.
I will eat a large vat of meatballs on the air.
All right.
I love meatballs, so it's a win for me. I'll be rooting for the staff.
Where do you buy a large bucket of meatballs?
I don't know, but I find it.
Costco, or?
I had so many meatballs in Columbus; it was incredible. Like everywhere we went, it was
so that was on your mind.
I just said, "Oh, meatballs!" In one place, I was just mad that I didn't order. I ordered the meatballs as an appetizer. I was mad I didn't just order 2 things of the meatballs. It was incredible. Yeah.
Sunshine Spartan number 1. Spring break is the best break of the year. 2, Houston still wins it all. And 3, if MSU continues the same defense versus Marquette, they may make the Final Four.
That was certainly their best in a while. Spring break is, I don't know. Winter break for me, well, summer break was the best in school. You got the most time. But winter break always felt longer, and I was always grateful when it showed up.
Yeah, but the weather's ass.
That's true. Every break
Spring
was
break,
good.
you get to go somewhere nice and get hammered.
Not if you're in middle school.
It is 2023, man. These kids are wild. Am I right?
I mean, it was a spring break where you got the hooker in Vegas. Was that spring break?
No.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
No, just 20-year-old Jason. Treese with her highlights. Number 1.
Sorry, I had to bring that story up right before Therese.
No, it's fine. She's heard it. Number 1, something amazing, Jason said. I need a 10-0 run to feel comfortable, and it immediately happened. What? Although Izzo's broken clipboard was a close second. 2, realized our dog Mia was 11, not 9. Made me really sad, but now I know why she is grumpy sometimes. Love her.
Yeah,
it's the Singapore sling from Skymint. Got some of the Skymint Reserve good stuff.
I guess
that's where those come from.
So wait a sec. You just found out the dog was 2. How did you find out?
I knew the dog was 11. She's just stoned.
Okay.
Fucking sad about it.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. All right.
It does say highlights. So.
Yeah.
Carl. Sure. Well, it's just we don't know. She adopted her a long time ago and doesn't. The age was not really known.
Okay.
So whatever. She's still alive. It's all that counts. Carl Yorimoto. Number 1, learning how to win without relying on threes will be huge going forward. 2, swarming defense and experienced guard play once again proves to be the formula for March, which is why most of the big man-centric Big Ten struggles in the tournament. And 3, IPAs are depthless and boring and are only so popular because hops are easy to understand for the average American craft beer drinker who needs to be entertained by their beer. There's a reason why most professional brewers prefer lagers, but sadly, craft lagers don't sell.
I prefer a lager. I'm not an IPA guy. I used to like IPAs, but in my 20s it was like it's just too filling now. I can't do it. I'm a lager guy.
All right.
Yeah.
Todd Truesdell. Number 1, based on Big Ten seedings, this was about the right number. The conference was going to get into the Sweet 16. Not a shock. Big Ten needs to get more athletic. 2, MSU finally showed some Spartan dog. Congrats, guys. And 3, I hate the 6:30 p.m. tip for MSU.
I kind of like it. I mean, the only thing I like about being a later game at any site is that you get to sit around and watch the first game. Whereas but that's just if you're covering it. Like for most people, I don't think that.
I mean, yeah, if you're Eastern Standard Time, you can get out of work, got an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
Somewhere.
I totally get it. If you're like in Chicago and you work till 5, you got to get home, or you're out west. It could be a pain in the ass. But a lot of games are early, and yeah.
Senior Riverboat Tubin next. Number 1. The Oscars should implement a blockbuster category for beloved films that are not the indie darlings the Academy bites for. 2, World Baseball Classic has been awesome. If only Javi could play like this at Comerica. And 3, Magic Johnson arriving in NYC gives MSU at least 1 win.
A lot of cuts to Magic Johnson, no doubt. If he talks to the team pregame, they'll be dialed in.
And tweets.
Yeah. You been watching any of the World Baseball Classic?
I haven't.
Yeah, I mean,
No, and I'm bummed out because it looks like it's really fun. But
I know.
just, dude, the NCAA tournament, I've been watching 9 hours of basketball 4 straight days. It's just
every time I catch a moment of it, it looks like exciting. Every highlight I
Yeah.
see is interesting. I think it's a cool event. I just have not gotten totally into it. With you at the Oscars, there should be a separate thing for like this. This grossed a certain amount of money, and there's a baseline for that.
Mr. Neurotic Pants. Number 1, I took all of 10 seconds for joyous MSU fans to shove their victory up Michigan's ass. I guess Schadenfreude's is sweet. Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude? 2, there's no such thing as karma. Alabama is a good bet. 3, nobody but coaches can lay hands on students, break clipboards, and verbally abuse people with impunity.
Well, I mean, you say lay hands. I mean, you can't hit somebody. I mean, but if you have a relationship, you can grab them. You know, like so growing up, my dad never once hit me, but he would shake the shit out of me once in a while out of frustration, you know? And that was good parenting, I thought.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Cucker Tarlson, number 1. Graham saying that the whole live music thing is overrated on the last show. Felt great being a musician.
Sorry.
2, the whole local sports columnist and local podcast thing is extremely overrated. Now that's a good take. I like that take.
Hot take of the day there.
3, Mady goes to Hawaii Spa this offseason to learn better ball grabbing technique.
These really had a chance to be the hot take of the day. Well done, Cucker. What I meant is there's a play. Like, I like live music. I like concerts. What I don't like is when I go somewhere to have a conversation and unexpectedly run into live music that's too loud that sort of change. Like, I'll give you an example. Went to LS Teco, which is in our neighborhood, last summer with like 3 friends. We were excited to go, and somebody on the patio was just we literally could not hear each other. We had to, it was like, what was the point? And so that's all.
Buenos tardes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just over and over and over. Anyway, I love live music. I would love to hear you play. And what
a backpedaling MFer.
Yeah, this is bad. But
sorry, Cucker. Live music is ass when you're trying to have a conversation. If you don't know that there's music there and you just show up and all of a sudden they start playing, it's ass.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, if you go for the music. Like there are places in Lansing I love going for the music and have gone for the music.
Couch on fire. Number 1, I wish Izzo would go back to wearing suits, even though it might restrict those fist pumps. 2, Izzo is the best show in college basketball coaching. And 3, embarrassing only 1/8 of Big Ten teams in the Sweet 16, but there's also no North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, or Kansas.
No, it's the rest of the Champions Classic is out, right? So I mean, it happens to everybody. The problem is the whole Big Ten. If Indiana had just won, it would have been like, okay, they're 2 of the final 16s. The Purdue thing was bad, but
and
they got
Purdue
7.
didn't lose to a 16.
Well, that would have helped. Yeah, if there was just a second one in, it would have been so much better.
Clint One Ball Bainey next. Number 1, 45 years of watching Spartan hoops going back to 1979. Yeah, a few more national titles would be awesome, but what a journey it's been. It's nice to be at the big boys table. 2, it was great to have my son back from DePaul for spring break to watch the game on Sunday at my home in Matawan with my folks as well.
You know where that is? Right near Kalamazoo.
I can't pronounce it. Why the fuck would I know where it is?
That's a good point.
Just like the Spartan basketball family. It's a family affair when it comes to the green and white. And 3, back-to-back shutdowns of 2 great point guards in 48 hours. That was the key to those victories. And bonus, Rube, fuck, marry, kill. Madonna, Cher, and Sharon Osbourne. Current age. Motherfucker. All right. I'm going to fuck Madonna, marry Cher, and kill Sharon Osbourne. Now, I love Sharon Osbourne.
Jesus, dude.
But look at what she's doing to Ozzy. I mean, she's going to make this guy work until he dies. It's just like,
it's fair.
I'm scared of Sharon Osbourne.
That's 100% fair.
Hans Jurgen. Number 1, screw the transfer portal. Izzo is always right. 2, Graham is always wrong. Will Madison Square Garden even allow him in? 3, all of our enemies are eliminated. To quote Shaq, tell me how my ass tastes. And bonus, Kohler needs to be subbed when our offense stalls, and we need a bucket.
Subbed in, I'm guessing, is what he means.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think he does. I think there are times where because not only that, he is a guy who, if the other team doesn't have on the scouting report, becomes an offensive weapon. But he's also somebody who I think Kohler's taken real steps in making the right play. Early on, he was sort of I don't want to say a selfish offensive player, but he liked to shoot when he got the ball, and he's gotten away from that. And even after he scored a bucket against USC the next time, made a good read, and I think those are good developments for him. Shaq, tell me how my ass tastes.
Remember with Kobe? He was up on stage. This was like 05 or something.
Okay.
And he won a championship with Miami, and he was doing that thing, and he sang a song about Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Jake Hawkins next. Number 1, note to Twitter. Do a better job notifying me when Couch in the Rube puts out a tweet about hot takes and question show. It's BS. I missed out on doing both last week. Also, note to Dominic. Thanks for the shout-out last week, but next time, tag me in a tweet.
Come on, Dominic.
2, come on, Elon. 2 gutsy wins from MSU to start out March Madness, and with Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, or Purdue to worry about, should be the easiest path to a Final Four. I'll take credit for Purdue losing since I called into work and took Friday off. I did the same thing in 2018 when UMBC beat Virginia. 3, Jason should play songs about New York this week since MSU is heading there to play next. Bonus. R.I.P. Lance Reddick, a.k.a. Lieutenant Cedric Daniels from The Wire, my favorite character on the show. Also, hey, Little Caesars, do we get a free mini pizza and pop lunch combo since a 16 beat a 1 again?
A lot of stuff going on here with these takes.
And the Hawk called in sick Friday or whatever to watch the game.
I love it. Maybe you might not want to say that, but if your boss is listening to the end of this show, I think he's had enough Skyman anyway that he's
Jake's
good.
Valuable enough. He can do that,
Absolutely. And Jake, I've heard a number of people say this, and I do think, and obviously our show moves around occasionally, so that I understand why you miss it. If it becomes a real problem, and other people let us know too, because I know the formula with Elon has changed, and other people said they miss it. We can do something different. Like, it's easy enough to just, like, if you wanted to be part of a newsletter, every time I do this, you just fire out an email to people who want an email sent to them too. Like, we could do that.
Yeah, where's your newsletter?
Well, I did that in case – I'm still going to do that at some point. But I just wanted to have the addresses in case Twitter went away. That was sort of the idea.
All right, finally, Upper Deck Jerk Guy. Number 1, Michigan State needs a women's hockey team. 2, need to go big for a women's basketball coach. And 3, Jake is more annoying than Flo, Gecko, Mayhem, and Limu Emu, and Doug.
And that's not Jake Hawkins. That's Jake from State Farm.
I was about to say.
Yeah. We went. Yeah, that's not Jake Hawkins.
Jake from State Farm.
I do like the idea of a women's hockey team. I think if you're going to add a sport, that you got the facility. I think that it's a growing sport. I think that would make a lot of sense if you can make it financially worthwhile for sure. We appreciate all of you and your hot takes. Thanks to Muskox. Go to gomuskox.com. If you go to gomuskox.com/spring. Check out their spring collection, including the ones that make my eyes pop that I've ordered. We appreciate Hopcat as well. Go to hopcat.com for the location nearest you. Thanks as always to Skymint. You probably got a Skymint near you. If you're nervous about this weekend, swing by Skymint first. Can help you out for sure. We'll figure out when our next show is. I'm going to be in New York, but we'll do something. And they got, before the next game. And pick
look out
games.
for the newsletter.
Yeah. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.